I flatlined right on the operating table. Wait, no. I kicked the bucket outside one, face planting. Cold in a hospital hallway after one too many brutal shifts. Classic, right? And now I'm someone else. Some dude named Xianing, same exact name as mine. What a sick joke. Peasant family, orphaned parents, and apparently, this absolute clown's entire vibe before I took over was boozing, gambling, hitting up brothels, and beating his wife. Awesome, just love that for me. I'm literally hanging off the back of a cart, puking my guts out while some guy named Li Urju is cursing me out for ruining his ride. He dumps me in the dirt with a handful of coins and drops the news. My wife tumbled off a mountain while gathering firewood and is probably already dead. Then he calls me utter trash and bails. Fair enough, honestly. I drag my sorry carcass to my new home, which is basically a crumbling, rotting shack. There's human crap right by the front step, and of course I step right in it. Peak luck. Inside, a bunch of women are totally freaking out over someone. Bleeding out. Me? Being an actual surgeon in my past life, I bypassed them straight to the kitchen first, because old habits die hard, and I need sterilized water and clean hands before touching anyone. I dig through a jar of pickled veggies and unearth this body's secret stash. Some ragged scholar robes and a measly grip of copper coins. That's it, that's our entire net worth. While the water boils, I start piecing together the pathetic memories rotting in this skull. Turns out the dying girl in the next room is his wife, a refugee the village saved and basically pawned off to him. Everyone else got turned into concubines, but she got the actual wedding. Lucky her, right? Except 10 days after the ceremony, both his parents kicked the bucket, so the superstitious village blamed her for being cursed. And this total scumbag used that as an excuse to beat her. Non-stop, try to sell her to a brothel, and threaten her with even worse. Real stand-up guy, this vessel I'm currently trapped in. I knock on the door. Someone shrieks out that she's coughing up blood, and that instantly gets me moving. I storm in with a basin and find her completely out cold, soaked in way more blood than I coughed up earlier. The women recoil from me in terror, like I'm about to start throwing hands. I snap that I'm not here to hurt her, and order them to get out, so I can actually patch her up properly. Once they vanish, I start a legit medical check from head to toe. Neck, arms, and wrists. No major fractures, and her hips look safe too. It's freezing deep winter, and she's trapped in a single rag. The blood on the sheets isn't from internal bleeding. It's from brutal beatings that ripped her skin wide open. That's when I finally get a good look at her face. She's tiny, ghost white, and basically just a kid, around 15 or 16 years old. Fresh bruises stacked right on top of old ones all over her. In my past life, I never laid a finger on a woman. Not even my gold digger ex, who demanded my entire salary just to marry her. But this absolute nightmare? This is pure evil on a whole different level. I steady my breathing, clench my jaw, and loosen her tattered clothes, only to discover at least 2 fractured ribs. Leaning down to listen to her chest, I check if her lungs are still hanging in there. That's when her head snaps up and she gasps out, in a barely audible, terrified whisper, "If you ruin my body, I won't sell for a good price anymore." She's been trapped in this hell for 3 brutal years, taking non-stop beatings every single day. And the only reason that scumbag never touched her like that, turns out, is because virgins fetch way more cash at the brothel. Sick, twisted logic. And now I've got her half-naked right under my hands, while she trembles, begging me to just end it quickly. Instead of dragging out her torture, I shut down that nightmare logic right to her face. "Listen up. I'm a doctor, not a monster." I press down on her stomach. "Does this hurt?" She just stares right through me, like I'm speaking an alien language. I press again. Her ribs are completely busted, and I need to know what else is broken. Just give me a yes or no, that's all I need. It doesn't hurt when I move to her liver here. It doesn't hurt by the end of the exam. Her whole face is bright red, and my palms are warm, in a way I refuse to dwell on. I stand up, look away, and flatly tell her, "Just fractured ribs, nothing life-threatening." I try to walk away, but she grabs my sleeve, her eyes glistening with tears, totally terrified, like she's dying to speak but too scared. And honestly, looking at her right now, a girl who, back in my world, would still be stressing over high school exams and innocent high school crushes, stuck here getting abused by some absolute trash of a husband. Yeah, even someone as cold as me Feel something crack inside. I gently pry her hand off, step outside into the yard, and return with a couple of wooden sticks and a kitchen knife. She instantly goes stiff with sheer terror the second she sees the blade. So I quickly explain, broken bones need an improvised splint. This is gonna hurt and she needs to stay dead still. I start carving the sticks into splints, and when I lean in close to set the bone, she completely snaps. Husband, I'm begging you, please have mercy on me. I'll hand over every single coin I earn. I'll scrub your clothes to the bone. I'll haul firewood down from the mountain. I'll do anything. Just don't sell me off. Don't torture me, and if you're gonna kill me anyway, please just make it quick. Her nonstop sobbing is giving me a migraine. So I fake annoyance. Look, I'm not interested in beating up a half-starved bean sprout. This is gonna hurt, so don't even breathe. And maybe, just maybe, I won't sell you. She can't even process it, and before she can beg more, I shove a wooden stick straight between her teeth. Bite down hard so you don't bite your tongue off. And do not move an inch no matter how bad it hurts. Then I get straight to work, setting the bone purely by feel through her skin. She's groaning in agony the entire time, until the stick finally pops right out of her mouth, and she lets out a blood-curdling scream. That definitely woke up the entire damn village. With the bone successfully set, she instantly passes out from the shock, which honestly makes things way easier. I swap out the blood-soaked sheets while she's completely out cold, and by the time I'm done, I'm drenched in sweat. A doctor's eyes are supposed to see only life and death, not gender, but that doesn't stop the feel of her skin, and the sound of her crying from haunting my mind. Anyway, I can't stay trapped in that room any longer. Broken ribs aren't usually fatal, but in a wasteland with basically zero medicine, usually doesn't mean a damn thing. She's the only living soul in this entire world I have any connection to, so I'm not about to let her flatline over something this fixable. Whether I keep her around for the long haul, or eventually kick her loose, that's a problem for future me. I'm no saint, but I'm also not going to waste my life pretending to love a total stranger I feel zero connection to. I check the cabinet for a spare blanket, finding 2 ratty old shirts and pure rat droppings instead. Then I remember the original owner already pawned the other blanket for booze money. Of course he did. I don't even have the energy left to lose my temper over it. It's still early, so I scour the house and yard, and manage to scrounge up exactly 2 bowls of cold gruel to eat. Her injuries are severe enough that, even with a full medical degree, I can't guarantee she makes it without real medicine. I stare up at the snow-blanketed mountain behind the village, and sigh, time to do what I can and pray to whatever's listening. She's still the only person around here who actually matters to me. Most healing herbs get picked clean in summer, so I spend 2 freezing hours clawing through the frost, hunting for whatever survives the winter. Aconite root, white peony, polygala, stuff like that. The famines have crushed this place so hard that even the wildlife has vanished. The trees are stripped raw, and the refugee corpses, half buried in the snow, are covered in bite marks. I genuinely can't tell if those came from wild beasts or starving humans. I already puked my guts out once today, and right now I'm too dead inside to care. It's an hour's hike into town. Along the way, I stumble across a pack of local brats huddled around a fire, acting way too suspicious about something. Which one of you little monsters dropped a deuce right in front of my porch? They scatter to protect whatever's cooking behind them. The scent of roasted sparrow hits my nose, and suddenly I am starving on a whole different level. Liar, nobody did that. Nobody. Huh? Then explain why there are flies all over your backside. Liar. I snatch a stick right out of some kid's hand and boot him for good measure. This roasted sparrow tastes unbelievable. Genuinely life-changing stuff. The original me apparently had quite the wild rep in this village, as the absolute town degenerate, so nobody's even shocked I'm pulling this stunt. Turns out one of these punks is Lee Urju's own kid, the exact same guy who dumped me out on the road earlier. He starts bawling and threatens to tattle to his dad. Go ahead, kid. Your old man already beat you this morning anyway. We're totally square now. By noon, I make it to town and find a massive line outside the apothecary. People looking totally hollowed out, dead-eyed and barely able to stand. I hand over the wild herbs I scavenged to the shopkeeper, trading them for some wound salve and a handful of coins. He's ecstatic, begging me to bring him more whenever I can find it. I ask what's wrong with everyone waiting in this line. He drops a heavy sigh and explains it's a severe addiction. Some nasty narcotic called carefree powder. That the Imperial Court just recently banned. And now all these hopeless junkies are flooding in here trying to get withdrawal treatment. I recognize the description instantly. It's basically this fantasy world's version of historical opium-style catastrophe. Cheap to cook, effortless to spread. Turns frontline soldiers into berserk fighters. And scholarly nerds into manic geniuses. While turning an entire empire into a nation of addicts within a decade. Classic playbook move. I ask the shopkeeper if his withdrawal remedy relies on a very specific concoction of herbs. His eyes light up, realizing I know my medicine. 2 of the ingredients the shop uses are standard enough. But that third one, going grass, is straight up lethal poison. They're using a deadly toxin to fight a different poison. Which is honestly the dumbest medical logic I've heard all day. It's like trying to put out a blazing inferno with more fire. I keep it real with the shopkeeper. Look, I know how this sounds. Coming from a broke, filth-covered scholar. But I just tell him, swap that poison herb for some wolfsbane root. Balance it with a little brunette root. Just to level out those cold properties. The guy just laughs in my face. He tells me to pipe down about medicine. Like I'm some kind of expert. Fine, whatever. I tried. I just apologize and walk away. But here's the kicker. The second I'm gone, the shopkeeper repeats my suggestion to the back room. Like it's some big joke, and the old doctor back there, Dr. Wu, practically leaps out of his chair. Turns out, my offhand tip would actually cure the addiction, cutting a lifelong struggle down to just 3 years. He goes bolting for the door to track me down, but I'm already long gone. I spend my remaining coins carefully. Medicine for her, the cheapest grain I can find. Some basic cooking oil and on a whim, a little sugar. I can't stop thinking about her face. From this morning. I grab 2 meat buns and 2 plain ones. I wolf down the plain ones while walking, tucking the meat buns against my chest to keep them warm. I wander into a bookstore just to check prices, since the memories of this body were a scholar's, and I figure, maybe. The imperial exams are my ticket out of this mess. Then I take one look at the price tags. The cheapest paper and inkstones cost more than everything I own. Dream crushed. The clerk takes one look at my rags and starts roasting me as I head for the exit. Whatever. He's not wrong. By the time I hit the village, it's dead of night and the whole place is weirdly loud. Like suspiciously loud. The second it clicks what's going on, I immediately regret coming home. I check on her, no fever. She's still out cold. Good. I collapse next to her, completely drained, and pass out. Next morning I'm up before her. Boil some water, get cleaned up, heat up the buns, and whip up some porridge. She tries to sit up as soon as she spots me, but I have to hold her back. Her bones are still healing. One wrong move could completely wreck all of yesterday's progress. She flinches away from me the second I sit down on the edge of the bed, already terrified, stammering out apologies for not getting up to cook breakfast. Herself. I tell her to hush and just let me check her pulse. Old habits die hard. Back in my world, I spent a whole year on traditional medicine, training under a legendary doctor, before pivoting to surgery, so reading a basic pulse like this is absolute child's play. I tell her straight up her physical foundation is completely fine. She's just dangerously run down from months of neglect. And with proper care, she'll be back on her feet in about 2 weeks. She goes dead silent. Honestly, I don't think she even knows how to process having a husband who isn't actively beating the crap out of her. I get up to hand her the porridge and buns. In the morning light, apparently, I clean up pretty well. Scholar robes, tall frame, the whole package. Not that any of that matters to me. Her memories shed light on why she agreed to marry into this dumpster fire. For free in the first place. She actually liked his face. That infatuation died real quick, though. His dad slipped off a roof and died the exact day she arrived. And his mom passed away from grief shortly after. Naturally, the original guy blamed both deaths entirely on her. He beat her half to death at his mother's funeral, and never let up a single day after. She spent every waking moment believing she genuinely deserved it, some twisted cosmic payback for her father and brother, losing a military campaign that got 30,000 soldiers slaughtered. So none of this, me acting decent, me actually checking her pulse like a real doctor, makes any sense to her warped worldview. I wedge a pillow behind her back, Tell her the medicine is warming up by the fire, and she needs to drink it post-meal. I drop that I'll try to score some bone broth tonight. To bulk up her nutrition, ask if anyone in the village knows how to sew. Since her blanket is completely ruined with blood, and ask half out of genuine concern if this family owes cash to loan sharks, given how aggressively irresponsible the original owner was. She just stares straight through me with dead eyes, and softly asks if I can help her change her clothes later. I tell her you got it. Her old rags are completely wrecked anyway. I'll hook her up with some fresh drip in a couple days. Brand new fits for her. And that's when all her remaining hope instantly shatters. In her mind, there's only one twisted reason a husband like me would ever buy his wife something new. He's dressing her up just to sell her off. You really don't need to buy me new clothes. She looks up at me. And for the first time I actually see her, matted hair, completely fried and yellowed at the ends. A tiny face dominated by these massive, dark eyes swimming in tears. Even while she's smiling, it's this heartbreaking kind of smile. Her voice trembling, husband. In the back of the cabinet there's the dress I wore the day your mother brought me to this house. Can you put it on me so when I die, my family will actually recognize me in the afterlife? I stare at her completely blindsided. We were literally just talking about going shopping, and she's already planning her own funeral fit. Hey, seriously, don't cry on me. I was a genius at school, a beast at my job, but an absolute disaster at comforting people. Especially women. I look back at all the toxic threats the original me apparently made, and suddenly it clicks what she thinks I meant. I'm not buying you clothes to deck you out and flip you to the highest bidder. Years of relentless abuse have wired her brain to doubt every single word I say. I slam my bowl down, totally out of patience. Look at you, you're beaten down and broken enough right now that even if I were a total monster, I wouldn't treat you like trash. I am never laying a hand on you ever again. I won't scream at you, and I sure as hell won't sell you off. Wait, you actually won't sell me? Obviously not. I don't even know if human trafficking is technically illegal in this messed up world. Though honestly it doesn't even matter. The second she starts breaking down in tears, I'm completely useless. Absolute dead silence. A painfully awkward silence. I clear my throat loudly and point right at the buns in her hands. Those are getting cold, and that instantly snaps her back to reality. She suddenly realizes she's hoarding the luxury meat buns, while I'm sitting here eating plain watery porridge. And she immediately tries to trade back with me, swearing up and down she actually prefers plain porridge, insisting those juicy meat buns belong to me. Her toxic in-laws and mother hammered it into her skull since day one. Good wives starve so their husbands can feast. In what warped universe does the man slurp down luxury porridge while his wife gnaws on grass? Not buying it for a second. Nobody turns down real food when they are literally starving. I step closer, gently smoothing down her dry hair, and make it clear I bought those buns strictly for her. I know she is terrified of me right now, but every word I dropped was dead serious. Then I ask her name, since apparently I am sharing a roof with this poor soul, and I do not even know what to call her yet.
I'm Suwon.
Being this close to me sends shivers running through her paralyzed body, yet something about my low, soothing tone cuts through and actually thaws her cold heart. Against all odds, she feels safe. Once breakfast is down, I make sure she takes her meds, before sprinting out toward the edge of the village. Halfway up the mountain, reality hits me like a truck. She has 2 completely fractured ribs, and I just abandoned her alone in bed all day. How on earth is she even supposed to use the restroom by herself? Considering how she just broke down sobbing over a simple meat bun, if I ever offer to help her with that, she will literally flood the house with tears. I forcefully shove the thought out of my head. On the climb up, I cross paths with local neighbors hauling firewood, clowns, who obviously view the old me as a completely useless parasite. They start mocking me for dragging a rusty knife up the trail, acting like a washed-up bum trying to play professional hunter. I totally ghost them and keep marching. 30 minutes in, foraging for herbs is a breeze now that I have yesterday's grinding under my belt. I am finally starting to piece together the mechanics of this world. Turns out, society runs on the exact same writing systems, cultural norms, and bureaucratic exams I memorized from history books, even if this specific dynasty never existed back on Earth. If the foundational social structure matches up this closely, I am quietly betting I've got a legitimate shot at acing those brutal imperial examinations. using my overpowered modern knowledge. But let us be real. None of that master plan matters if we are flat broke. And that withdrawal line outside the pharmacy yesterday already sparked an idea for a quick payday, even if I still need to flesh out the details. I'm crushing it with these herbs today, finishing in barely half the time as yesterday, when suddenly I freeze in my tracks. Just 20 paces away, sprawled in a pool of blood, is a half-eaten carcass, a massive deer, an entire deer. A wild boar alone pulls in at least 2 silver pieces, but a beast this size, even just half of it, would equal a whole month of herb foraging. Nah, make that 2. I lay low nearby for nearly 20 minutes, just in case whatever slaughtered it circles back, then creep closer to inspect. The blood is still warm. It hasn't even frozen yet. This went down minutes ago. Even with the ravaged insides, this thing has to tip the scales at 200 pounds. There is zero chance my weak, newly transmigrated body can carry this down the mountain solo. So, I strap it to some sturdy branches using rope from my basket, and start hauling the whole heavy mess downward, basket and all. By midday, the village men are clustered around the millstone, slaying time with a game of chess. After wrapping up their own firewood run, one of them, my neighbor, brings up how nobody's seen me head back yet, and half joking, half concerned, starts talking about sending a search party up the mountain to make sure I haven't been wolf chow. The original owner's parents bit the dust less than 6 months ago, so even the guys who usually look down on him feel a baseline obligation to check in. Right as someone volunteers to fetch the village elder, someone catches sight of me limping down the road, dragging a massive shadow behind me. Wait, is that Xiaoning? What on earth is he hauling? It's game. An actual wild animal. Within seconds, I'm swarmed by half a dozen dudes, completely losing their minds over the deer. 200 pounds, easily worth 2 silver pieces. Half a year's worth of food for an entire family. They're calling me a lucky bastard for bagging something this huge on my very first time out hunting.
Total vaginers look, primer flash green.
Brushing it off even though dragging this heavy carcass down the mountain has completely wrecked both my shoulders. Suddenly, some sketchy guy named Jean Lees throws an arm around my neck, acting way too familiar, and starts scheming how we can sell this deer to blow all the cash on drinks and women at some shady brothel. Apparently there's a promo this month where spending enough gets you a free girl. Gross. I shrug him off without even a word and march straight past him toward Li Erju, the steady, unimpressed powerhouse chilling by the millstone. Brother Erju, you free this afternoon? I need someone to haul this into the city for me. Li Erju is already built like a brick wall and is currently glaring daggers at me. He just grunts. Into the city? Sure, that'll cost you 20 copper coins for the cart. Then, dropping the sarcasm. And why aren't you asking Jean Lazy over there, since he was so eager to help you for free? I look Li Erju dead in the eye with total sincerity, and explain that Jean Lazy doesn't even own a cart, and that I'm officially done with brothels for good, thanks to yesterday's reality check. Erju doesn't buy it for a single second. The original owner's trash reputation isn't getting fixed with one casual chat. Still, he cracks his whip and gives me a final warning. 20 coins for the ride, not one less, or I'll whip you bloody myself. Then he hoists the 200-pound deer onto his shoulder, like it's nothing, genuinely insane strength. Back home, I actually hit the gym and had a decent six-pack. But this guy makes me look like a total softie. Behind us, Jean Lazy gets openly mocked by the villagers for getting completely curved, so he tries to save face by shouting out that I'll just come crawling back to him eventually. I catch the dark, venomous look he shoots my back as we leave, definitely filing that little red flag away. That dude is straight up petty. Right at the city outskirts, I have Erju pull the cart into a patch of trees, off the main road instead of heading straight to market. He instantly snatches up a thick stick, ready to beat me into next week if I'm trying to pull something shady. Honestly, fair given his track record with me. I just need to properly dress and skin this deer before selling it. I pull out my blade to compare it with his woodcutting knife. Deciding his blade is sharper, I snatch it up and get straight to work slicing right through the mangled gut, making a clean cut all the way up the spine, then shoving my arm deep to the shoulder to detach the head. Erju, give me a hand lifting this off. I tell him. He's way too stunned to even ask why. Just helps out. One sharp crack and the head pops right off. Now he's staring at me like I just grew a second face. So I quickly cover my tracks. Wildlife damage completely ruins the resale value. So I'm just dressing it up properly first. What I keep to myself. Surgical training basically makes butchery a walk in the park. Honestly, with a real scalpel, instead of this rusty woodcutter, I could carve up a human body faster than this deer. Those antlers are too old to fetch a decent price. And there's no blood worth harvesting, since it's a buck with no valuable velvet left. But the cinters and tendons bring in serious cash. Plus, the venison itself has high medicinal worth. I tear through the entire carcass with clean, laser-focused movements. Joints snapping out of place exactly where I want them. Every organ harvested without wasting a single drop. Urju watches my delicate office worker hands work with the precision of a master butcher shivering hard. Xianing, what kind of monster learned to carve up pigs? I mean deer, he stammers out. I brush it off effortlessly, telling him I just read it in some random manual once. The guy's completely baffled. In his world, books are strictly for passing exams. Not field dressing livestock. I wave it away, and quickly rig the deer back together to look untouched, masking all the predator damage so it looks pristine. Once we hit the city limits, I bypass the obvious commercial stalls, and steer him straight toward the east side, the luxury sector. Because the filthy rich always stake out the east side, in spots like this. Rather than begging at front gates like a total amateur, I stalk straight into the service alleys, pounding on back doors one after another. After getting slammed in the face at door after door, Urju's starting to lose his cool, begging to just drop it at some tavern kitchen instead, since he actually knows a few chefs. I tell him to chill. I totally saw this coming. Famine means everyone's already out hunting, and slanging game on the side, meaning restaurant. Kitchens are drowning in fierce competition, and trying to score a backdoor pass to a wealthy household? That's a whole different level of nightmare. At the next stop, I slide the gatekeeper, a kid even younger than me, 2 coins before he can even slam the door in our faces. He sniffs, looking totally unimpressed, but tells us to wait. He warns us that if the door doesn't open back up, before a single stick of incense burns down, we better bounce. Urju is furious, watching me bow and scrape to some random teenager, and calls me an absolute idiot for handing out coins to a lowly door guard. Instead of biting, I just flash a grin and explain, half jokingly, a prime minister's doorkeeper outranks a standard government official. I point right at the plaque above the entryway, telling him, this isn't just some rich guy's massive crib. This is an actual high-ranking official's residence. There's a massive gap between a fancy mansion and a true power estate. Urju instantly panics, grabbing my arm in a death grip, and insisting we get out of here right now. The old me might have been a pathetic, useless drunk, but he's still breathing, and Urju's not about to let me get us both flat-out executed over trying to fence a deer to a government bigwig. Then the back door creaks open again. A middle-aged man steps out draped in plain gray robes. So you're the ones peddling the wild deer? That's us, I tell the steward, staying cool and completely confident. My brother and I bagged this fresh first thing this morning. Didn't even waste time stopping at a restaurant. We brought it straight to you. He steps forward to inspect the carcass himself, but I'm quicker, lifting the hide with my own hands, to show him just how surgical the job was. Zero mess for his kitchen crew to stress over. They can literally toss it straight in the pot. He's genuinely impressed. Most hunters rolling up with deer or wild boar don't bother gutting and cleaning the carcass this thoroughly, let alone prepping the head so cleanly for a proper display. Then his expression darkens. Why is there a chunk missing from the belly? Urju completely panics, rushing to spill the truth. That a piece got ripped off dragging it down the mountain. But I cut him off smooth as butter. I tell the steward we set some aside, as a heartfelt gift for our aging elders, since venison is pure gold for the frail and old, and that we kept the fresh blood back home too, because hauling it all was a nightmare. That softens him up instantly. Filial sons? How wholesome. He asks for my price. This is the exact moment that matters. Even the cheapest pork in the city runs over 20 coins a pound, so a massive 200-pound deer sold to an official's estate should easily clear 4 taels of silver. That's already half a year of Urju's wages. From just one single deer. Urju, dying to close the deal before I wreck it, starts stepping in, but I pull him back and keep pitching. Instead, I lay out the full value for the steward. Venison as a premier tonic for elders and kids, the bones for broth, the fat for healing wounds, and then, ever so carefully, I suggest the head can be mounted as a trophy, if the master of the house loves archery, or horsemanship. The steward's entire expression shifts. Real talk, he completely drops the stiff formality, and drops the exact question I was driving toward. What about the deer's other parts? He means the obvious one. I hand him the tail instead, flashing a smile just knowing enough to make my point clear, without saying a word out loud, that whatever the master wants to do with certain other parts is strictly his own business. But the tail works wonders for that exact same vibe, and he's more than welcome to enjoy it. I knew the second I confirmed this was a buck, that this specific asset was going to be my absolute jackpot. The steward totally catches my drift instantly, privately tagging me as one sly little scholar. He buys the whole pitch right on the spot. Meat at 40 coins a pound, 3 tails for the head, and 3 more tails for that special extra part. I don't haggle for a single second when the heavy silver, 12 tails total, actually lands right in my palms. Urju straight up smacks himself across the face in absolute disbelief, scaring the absolute living daylights out of me. He still can't wrap his head around how much cash we just pulled for that deer. He honestly thought 4 tails would have been a ridiculously high asking price. I just flash a grin and confirm. Yeah, we actually cleared it, and now we can finally eat some real meat, instead of living off plain bean porridge. He shoves my shoulder hard enough to practically pop it out of socket. Suddenly, looking low-key impressed that I've apparently grown a backbone, I hand him the 20 coins I promised for the cart ride, giving him major props because without his push, I never would have had the guts to cold approach a noble's, back in trance all by myself. He brushes off the gratitude, tells me to drop the formalities, and reminds me, sounding half like a threat and half like genuine big brother care, that he swore to my late mother he'd keep me on the straight and narrow, and if I ever slip back into my old deadbeat ways, he'll personally beat some sense back into me. With actual cash jingling in my pocket, I'm finally done pinching every single penny. I already secured a full week of medicine for Sue yesterday, so instead, I head straight back to that bookstore from earlier. This time, I actually dive into those 4 books and 5 classics, check out the price tags and yeah, figures, even the budget copies. Start at a solid, hefty tail. Let's be real, giant bucks don't drop out of the sky every day, so I swallow my pride and ask the clerk point blank if there's a more budget-friendly way to study. Turns out, broke scholars around here use hand-copied manuscripts. Instead of factory prints, half the price, plus copying them out by hand practically forces it into your memory. Talk about hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't even hesitate getting the shopkeeper to test my handwriting to make sure it's up to snuff. Turns out all those years of forced calligraphy drills back in middle school are finally paying off big time, and I walk out with 2 blank leaf volumes of the Doctrine of the Mean, ready to be filled out. Urju nearly passes out when he sees the damage for the paper, and a legitimate rabbit hair brush, a staggering 800 coins, completely mind-blown that I'm actually serious about hitting the books. Right after the bookstore run, I finally hit up the butcher stall I missed out on yesterday, and stock up on a mountain of fresh pork, ribs and marrow bones just as the afternoon kicks off. We're both completely starved, so I splurge on 15 massive meat buns, chowing down on them during the cart ride home, grease dripping right down our chins. Urju just keeps chewing me out the entire trip, calling me reckless for buying fancy new threads, when any old tattered dress would have done the job, and grilling me over why I grabbed 20 pounds of pork, when it's not even a holiday, stressing it'll rot before we can even finish it. It weirdly reminds me of my own mom, nagging me back in my past life, and instead of getting annoyed, I honestly just feel grateful a guy like this, gruff on the outside but low-key a real one, exists to look out for a total wreck like the old me. I level with him straight up. She's been through hell, and I treated her like garbage before, so I'm trying to make it right, even just a little. Brand new clothes aren't an everyday thing, just this once. And there's nothing wrong with dropping some cash to finally put a smile on my wife's face. Thinking back to how freezing and miserable the bed was last night, I casually drop that I also picked up cotton and fabric, asking if his missus, supposedly the absolute best seamstress in the village, might be down to stitch us 2 fresh quilts. Small favor, easy payday for her. With today's hustle finally wrapped up, I finally get a second to actually breathe. The brutal snow from that massive storm earlier this year is still blanketing the fields alongside the road, an endless sea of white. That makes the whole damn world look hopeless. It's already mid-March. We've got to start planting by the end of April. I mutter mostly to myself. Urju follows my gaze out toward the frozen solid fields, stressed that if the snow doesn't melt off fast, even the folks on our side of the border are gonna start dying of starvation. I'm thinking back on history, remembering entire dynasties that completely collapsed during mini ice ages, with crops failing year after brutal year, and a heavy knot instantly drops in my chest. Then, cutting through that blinding white, I spot a striking smear of deep red against the snow. Hold up, is that a person out there? I'm just about to leap off the cart when Urju violently grabs my arm. What the hell are you doing? People drop dead out here every single day during a famine. Mind your own business, he's not wrong. But just as our cart rolls past that broken lump on the ground, the dying man's eyes lock straight onto mine. Pure, unfiltered desperation. A primal plea to survive. I urge Urju to stop the cart. I can't just walk away. I jump off anyway. Help? Please help me. A man is drowning in his own pooling blood, his eyes instantly sparking with hope the second he sees me. Warm blood bubbles out with every agonizing breath. Don't move. I check his pulse first, then press my bare palm against his chest to track his heartbeat. Over 120 beats per minute. Even expecting the absolute worst, that frantic number still rattles me. Back home, modern medicine has machines for all of this. Out here, I don't even have basic hemostatic forceps. I rip his clothes open, and it's exactly what I dreaded. A massive, jagged slash running from his shoulder, cleared straight down to his stomach. He's bleeding out fast, and Urju is losing his absolute mind. We need to get out of here right now. Nobody survives a wound like that. This is pure bad luck. Xiaoning, let's go. Look, I'm no saint, and I'm definitely not trying to play some ancient savior. But this guy is built like a brick wall, clearly someone important. It feels like an absolute waste to let him die, when there's still a fighting chance. I demand to know if he has any emergency medicine on him. He just gurgles blood straight through his teeth. I'm not waiting around for an answer. I shove my hands through his sleeves myself, and yank out 2 small medicine vials. One sniff tells me everything. Noto ginseng, biota leaf, and premium agrimony. That last one, seriously expensive. Top-tier hemorrhage medicine, which completely confirms my suspicions. This guy is definitely no random peasant. Urju, I need clean snow, and I need it right now. Out here with 0 running water, freezing snow is my best bet. To shock his blood vessels and slow the bleeding. Urju curses under his breath, swearing I've completely lost my mind, but he scrambles off to grab it anyway. With a man's life hanging by a thread, I look the dying warrior straight in the eye. Dragging him off to find a real doctor in the city is a death sentence before we even get close. So I improvise pulling out the sewing needle I packed earlier with the bedding, and tell him straight up we're total strangers. I can't promise miracles, but I'll give it my all. If you end up kicking the bucket anyway, that's on fate. Cold as ice but completely honest. A sewing needle is far from ideal, but it'll have to do as he watches, barely hanging onto consciousness, while I drive the needle deep into 4 major pressure points. Qihai, Guanyuan, Sanyinjiao, and Baihui, to choke off the bleeding right at the source. Then I grab a handful of his hair and warn him. 1 more needle straight into Tianju at the back of his neck. And it's gonna hurt like absolute hell. And man, it does the second that metal pierces his skin. He nearly seizes up, eyes blown wide in shock. Hiju gets back with the snow right in the nick of time. I snatch handfuls of it and jam it straight into the gushing wound. Grinding it in, and against all odds it actually works. The bleeding is finally slowing down, hell yeah. 0 time to celebrate, I order her to thread a needle for me. Thread it for what? To stitch up the wound. Obviously move your ass. This guy is running out of time fast. After a quick wipe down, I dust potent hemostatic powder all over the injury, and by the time Hiju gets that thread through the eye, I'm already weaving the torn flesh back together, leaving him utterly speechless. Watching these surgical stitches go in, way cleaner than anything his own wife ever patched. Onto his pants, I've only ever heard of people wrapping bandages. You're literally sewing him up like a piece of cloth. I stay locked in and move fast back in my past life. I was easily one of the sharpest, and fastest trauma surgeons at a top-tier hospital, trading bright operating lights and high-tech gear for a sewing needle on a guy bleeding out in freezing snow. Feels strangely just like stitching up the sole of a shoe. I lock it off with a clean surgical knot. Pull back and check his vitals once more. His heart rate is dropping below 110. I exhale a massive breath. Alright, he's officially stabilized for now. For a few tense seconds, absolute silence except for the howling wind. The man tries to force out some words, before his eyes roll back and he passes out cold. I drop back onto the dirt, letting my exhausted body rest. So I tell her to help me haul him onto the cart. Wait, onto the cart. He's gonna die right on my cart. Same guy who literally threatened to whip me for puking on his cart earlier. Now he's somehow even more triggered over an actual dying dude. Look, I am way too drained from this entire day, Mountain Deer City, and now this BS, to argue about whether the guy is dying. Honestly, even death doesn't want him apparently. Back near the city gate, we lower him down and stretch him out right in the middle of the main road. I scatter a bunch of coins all around him and tell him quietly, saving a life is worth way more than any temple offering. I don't need a payout, just a fighting chance to live. And if anyone walking by sees these coins, maybe they'll pitch in and help too. I turn to leave when something snags my sleeve. I whip around, and his eyes are wide open. His voice is raw. Benefactor. Your name. I hit him with the straight truth. We're absolute strangers. Fate just smashed our paths together for one split second. My name doesn't mean a thing. I'm just an everyday guy trying to grind in peace. I straight up tell him not to hunt me down, and to keep his drama far away from my doorstep. Because looking at him now, there's zero doubt left. Ordinary folks do not walk away from wounds like that. And ordinary folks definitely don't flex deerskin boots that cost more than most peasants make in a year. Urju's already planted back on the cart. Done waiting, so I start to walk away. The guy strains hard, clawing into his pocket, dragging something out with every ounce of his remaining strength. Voice cracking. I have nothing else left to pay off this debt. Please, benefactor, take this. It's a pure white jade pendant. It's smooth, warm to the touch, and carved with a killer design. Even an absolute noob at antiques like me can tell this thing is worth an absolute fortune. I shouldn't dare take payment from a guy I know zero about under any normal circumstance. But a legendary piece of jade? Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Worst case, I just won't flex it in public. Best case, in a brutal famine like this, it might literally save my life one day. I'll take it. Now take care of yourself. Urjuin, let's head home. The whole ride back, Urjuin won't stop grumbling, even stopping to scrub down his cart with grass and snow before we enter the village. He's clearly terrified of what his wife will say if she finds anything suspicious on it. I tease him about being totally whipped, and he just grunts without even denying it. The second we roll into the village, we're swarmed. Everyone's eyes lock onto the basket in the cart, like a pack of vultures. Xiaoning, you struck it rich. How much did the deer go for? 2 taels. Look at that basket. It's packed solid with meat. None of your business. Urjuin snaps before I can even open my mouth, cracking his whip dangerously close to someone's face. My brother sold a deer through his own pure skill, so back off. Even if he bought 100 pounds of meat, none of you are getting a single drop of grease off it. That's when the village's resident gossip, Widow Zhang, pipes up with her sharp, annoying voice, claiming I'm like a little brother to her, and not Urjuin, reminding everyone I once carried water for her. Hearing her call me little brother in that tone makes my skin crawl. I remember the original me apparently did carry water for her, and I quietly think, of course he did, what a simp. I immediately correct the record right then and there, speaking loud enough for the whole crowd, clarifying that water carrying was just a favor for a completely different guy in the village, and that I already have a wife at home. Thank you very much. She tries pushing back, clearly triggered that I'm not playing along anymore. Thankfully, the village head's son steps in and checks her ego, smoothly pointing out she's old enough to be my mother, and definitely shouldn't be claiming to be any guy's sister around here. She slinks away, though she keeps tossing greedy looks at the cart. The village head's son asks if I made decent money off the deer. I owe him some baseline respect, so I keep my answer vague enough to just cover my wife's medicine. Fair point, since city meds don't come cheap. And if I couldn't write my own prescriptions, even a basic consultation would cost a fortune. That should have been the end of it. Except for Jean Lazy, the same clown from this morning who got completely pied. Just couldn't resist pushing his luck. He outright asks if I harvested 2 tails, so I shut him down cold. None of your damn business. Even if I made 100 tails, it wouldn't involve you for a split second. Urge, let's head home. As we roll out, the crowd turns on Jean Lazy instead, roasting him for trying to cozy up to me earlier, and getting absolutely nothing for it. He grinds his teeth, spits on the dirt, and mutters something about getting payback. Whatever, back home. I check the doorstep first, relieved to see 0 nasty surprises this time. Urju helps unload the haul, grabbing the cotton and cloth for his wife to stitch up some quilts, and offers to have her whip me up a fresh shirt. From the leftover fabric too. I thank him. My current threads still smell like yesterday's puke incident. Vomit stains never really come out no matter how many washes, so an upgrade is more than welcome. Before he takes off, I hand him 5 pounds of pork. And the deer fat I set aside specifically for him. He instantly freaks out and tries to refuse, reminding me he only looks out for my back. Because we grew up nursing from the same mother. His own mom couldn't produce milk, so my mother fed us both. He views me as his actual little brother, and insists I shouldn't be giving away resources I clearly need for my own sick wife. I push back with a half grin, threatening to give the pork to Widow Zhang instead. If he won't take it, that totally breaks him. He glares and grumbles, but eventually caves and takes it, admitting his wife won't be able to nag him about me anymore. Once she sees this much meat in the kitchen, he tries handing the deer fat back too, claiming there's barely anything left worth keeping, but I make him keep it anyway. Have his wife render it down into precious oil, since it's a total lifesaver for treating frostbite and nasty burns. Not trusting my own clumsy hands not to butcher the job, I just ask for half of it back once she's done. He agrees instantly and takes off, leaving me to get straight to work. I haul everything into the kitchen, chop up the rest of the pork into manageable chunks, and toss them up on the roof to deep freeze. Next, I boil a pot of water using our absolute last bit of firewood, scrub myself down properly, and get the ribs and bones soaking so they're fresh and clean. Before finally walking back into the bedroom, I catch the echo of voices outside in the yard. Just me and Urju chatting earlier, right before he headed out for the day. Inside, Suwon's been sitting by herself all day long, torturing herself over whether I actually meant what I said about not selling her. I push the door open and check in. You holding up okay? She's half propped up against the headboard, one bare shoulder exposed, wearing one of my oversized old shirts since she has literally nothing else. This morning she was way too shell-shocked to process anything, but now, catching my gaze, her entire face flares bright red. I'm FAMINE. I sit on the edge of the mattress and take her pulse again, doing my absolute best to look deadpan, despite how insanely flustered she is. Readings are identical to this morning, maybe with just a slightly faster heartbeat. I clear my throat awkwardly. You probably haven't eaten a thing since this morning. I warmed up some buns. Food's almost ready out in the kitchen. She takes the meat bun from me, totally nervous, clearly still paranoid that my mood might flip, and remembering how unhinged I acted earlier today. Still trying to process everything, she asks in a tiny voice, "Husband, have you eaten yet?" Man, that word, husband, hits me completely out of left field. A sudden surge of heat I've never felt in this body before rushes straight to my stomach. I cough hard in a way that is way too obviously fake. I ate. She instantly misreads my awkward panic as raw anger, freaking out inside. That she somehow managed to piss me off all over again. The silence in the room gets agonizingly heavy. I have zero idea whether I should stand my ground or run, and this body's raging hormones clearly have an entire agenda of their own, so I awkwardly pivot and change the subject. I picked up a fresh outfit for you. Want to check out your new threads? After everything she's been through today, her brain just refuses to process it. I pull out a stunning pale blue dress, and she rubs her eyes, like she flat out refuses to believe her own sight. Titch, this is seriously for me? She doesn't even dare to touch it, terrified it'll magically vanish the second she does. Well, duh, of course it's for you. Do you really think I'm gonna rock a dress? I joke, totally trying to break the ice. And hey, it works. Her panic finally starts to melt away. Throw it on after dinner once I swap out your bandages. Then it hits me. I forgot a major detail. Oh, by the way, I was gone all day. How did you even manage with, bathroom stuff? She blinks at me, completely clueless. I cough awkwardly, dying of embarrassment. Forcing the words out, I mutter, handling nature's call. Her face flashes bright crimson from her neck up. Technically, we're husband and wife, so this conversation shouldn't even be this awkward, right? Except we've literally never been close until today. The old me wouldn't even let her step foot in the bedroom. She was stuck sleeping on firewood in the kitchen. She stammers that the neighbor girl, Xiaoing, Erju's concubine, dropped by to help her out. Thank God. Honestly, no matter how gorgeous someone is, handling that specific chore is definitely not on my to-do list. Sick wife or not, am I right? Anyway, dinner's still on the stove. Let me go check. I blurt out, bolting out of the room instantly, leaving her sitting there blushing over nothing. After a long beat, she whispers softly to herself, "Whoa, he's like a totally different guy now." Pork bones need a solid few hours for a killer broth. So I grab the batch I had already started simmering, finish up a quick stir-fried rib dish, with whatever tiny scraps of seasoning we have left, and toss in some frozen garden green onions for good measure.
No ginger.
No garlic, but this pot still smells unreal. Got back way too late to whip up rice, so tonight's menu is just meat buns and meat.
Pure carnivore mode.
Partly to celebrate surviving today in one piece, and partly to celebrate the cash flow. The second I step in with a steaming bowl of ribs, Suin just stares at me, completely frozen. Honestly, I'm in such a solid mood right now. My smile probably looks annoyingly charming. Made some actual money down in town today. So let's feast tonight. Got some broth too. Save that for before bed. You actually made money? Hearing those exact words come out of my mouth must sound like a different language to her. She watches me scour the dump for anything we can possibly use as an improvised table, until I finally drag the kitchen cutting board over and slap it onto a stool, muttering under my breath about how ridiculous this is, that we don't even own a basic kitchen table. Seriously though, what kind of broke household doesn't even have a table? The old me really was just as completely useless as everyone claimed. Half the roof is literally caving in. The bed is falling apart at the seams. I don't even have a second set of clothes to my name. And yet, I somehow planned to study for the elite imperial exams. To top all of that off, our money keeps vanishing straight down the drain, into this life's endless list of disasters. We sit there eating in awkward silence for a bit, while I'm mentally tearing into my past self, and desperately crunching our budget numbers. She keeps her head down too, way too terrified to ruin whatever vibe I've got going. Now that her deadbeat husband has actually flipped a switch, she's petrified of jinxing this back into a nightmare. Eat up more, I tell her, dropping a massive piece of rib right into her bowl. Thank you, husband, she stammers, her voice barely a frightened mouse squeak. I catch her red face and for no logical reason at all, just blurt out without thinking. Did you actually used to call me that before? She instantly locks up, totally blindsided by the question. Dying of embarrassment, she basically hides inside her bowl. I never called you that back then. Well, that's not totally true. She did try once and it just earned her a brutal beatdown. So she learned never to try it again. The only reason she has the nerve to say it right now is because of how wildly different I've acted today. Back when she had nothing better to do than zone out, she used to devour those vintage ghost storybooks about scholars secretly possessed by malevolent spirits who wound up marrying wealthy daughters. And she'd quietly pray for something, literally anything, ghost or demon. She didn't care as long as it replaced her actual husband, anyone besides the original Xia Ning. So hearing her admit that out loud today, something in me finally softens, and I drop another rib into her bowl. And without even realizing how I sound, I say with a bit too much swagger, "Eat up. I'll swap your bandages out in a minute, and let me know if you need the restroom. No need to be shy about it." Once night fell, Erju rolled up with a pair of ancient quilts, his own kids used back when they were tiny, complete with that unmistakable hint of childhood pee. Whatever, after freezing last night, I'm definitely not complaining. Back inside the room, Suin won't even make eye contact. Head dropped, face completely flushed, just from the thick steam rising off the bucket of hot water next to the bed. "Husband, I'm ready." She's stressing out over the sponge bath I have to give her, since her cracked ribs make it impossible for her to wash herself up until yesterday. She only ever felt sheer terror around her husband. Now something's drastically clicked in her mind. And that single word, husband, hits me with a heavy impact it really shouldn't have. I clench my jaw and fight hard not to stare at her, though it's impossible to completely ignore things. While you're washing someone down, that porcelain neck, those sharp collarbones. Technically speaking, she's my wife. Technically, if I wanted to push the issue right now, she'd let me. Because apparently that's just how the rules work here. I don't make a move, obviously, even if this borrowed body has opinions I can't fully override. Stuck in this stolen flesh, she keeps her hands slapped over her chest the entire time, out of sheer mortification, completely clueless that I've already seen everything anyway. Modern medical instincts be damned. Before crashing, I set up her bedding properly, hand over her meds, and retreat to the kitchen to study by the flickering firelight. Since we can't afford oil for a lamp, I grind through the doctrine of the mean, all about moderation, restraint, and strict self-discipline, meant to keep both a guy and an entire empire in check. I breeze through the first chapter from memory easily, comparing it to old philosophy lectures, back in my university days. Chapter 3 is where my brain flatlines, mostly because my fingers are way too frozen to even hold a brush. I seriously need a desk and a proper study setup. When I finally sneak back to bed, she's already knocked out on the very edge. I don't wake her, just slide right past, thawing out under heavy blankets that somehow still smell like childhood. Today was absolute chaos, so I'm dead to the world in minutes. Next morning, right on cue with the rooster, Suwon wakes up pressed flat against my bare chest. The second she shifts, my arm tightens around her waist. Instinctive move. Don't move. Mornings are flat-out chaotic for any guy's anatomy, mine included, and I had barely gotten any sleep. She must have drifted toward my body heat in her sleep, and ended up completely curled into me. Hey, I'm no saint. This is infinitely warmer than freezing alone. And honestly, no living man is going to push away someone this soft and warm glued to his chest. She freezes dead in her tracks, heart pounding so hard. She's probably convinced I can hear every beat. Then it hits her with rising panic, just how ridiculously warm certain parts of me are getting. She has zero clue if moving or staying frozen is worse, until I bury my face right into her neck, breathe her completely in and mumble, completely out of it and totally unguarded. Let's sleep a bit more. This is the first, actually decent night's sleep I've gotten since dropping into this body. I whip up breakfast again, leftover ribs, millet rice, and corn porridge. I hang back afterward, hoping she'll bring up the awkward bathroom situation herself, but she stays completely mum. So I just grab my basket and head up the mountain. There's still snow everywhere, but I actually take my time today instead of rushing. The treatment pharmacies are pushing for addiction is just a weak, short-term fix. That kind of synthetic stimulant just torches the body, fast, and without a proper long-term formula. These addicts just wither away into nothing. Then I spot it. A patch of oxtongue weed, peeking through the snow. That's the key fever-reducing herb. Mix that with snaketongue grass and pine needles, and I've got the perfect detox recipe. Snaketongue grass is rare, but this mountain is absolutely stacked with it. And pine needles? They're everywhere. I harvest a massive haul, plus all the other herbs I grabbed earlier. By the time I head down, this mountain looks like a literal gold mine. Word about the deer has already hit the village, so I don't bother hiding on the back roads. Sure enough, the crowd at the millstone is staring at my basket, like it's stuffed with solid gold. What did you haul down today? That basket looks heavy. A neighbor sneers. Just some junk weeds and twigs. I give it to him straight. You really think you'll sell that in town? The village blacksmith scoffs, acting like I've lost my marbles chasing pipe dreams. I just shrug and say I'm feeling lucky. Maybe some city folk have more coin than brains. I keep walking without giving him the satisfaction. Behind me, the gossip mill starts turning about how rich I've gotten. Apparently, the old me used to grovel for the blacksmith's crumbs, and now I won't even look his way. The blacksmith, feeling slighted, decides he's owed a debt from when I begged for help with my funeral, and he plans to come collect this afternoon. Urju's already in the city slinging firewood, So he's out of the picture today. The village head's son catches up to me at the edge of town instead. Seeing as you're headed to the city anyway, want a lift part of the way? It's a quiet ride into town once we split ways. I make a beeline straight for the pharmacy. I shove through the crowd just to catch the shopkeeper. But before I can even drop a word, he whips around, spots me, and his entire face lights up like crazy. It's you, the scholar. You actually came back. He grabs me by the arm and drags me straight into the back room. Before I can even open my mouth, Dr. Wu is right there, mid-needle on some poor patient. He's totally pissed at the noise. Withdrawal patients get hit with this brutal, charred-looking blood rash all over their limbs. The second the drug's stimulant high finally wears off, he spins around, ready to rage, until the shopkeeper announces who I am, the genius scholar who called out the poison herb swap. Dr. Wu literally almost leaps out of his chair. He just spent 2 sleepless nights, cracking open ancient medical texts, just trying to wrap his head around my hint. Theory crafting something on paper versus actually deploying it in the field as a treatment are 2 totally different ballgames in medicine. He grabs both my hands like I'm his long-lost grandson and demands to know where on earth I learned this stuff. I've got to feed him an excuse, so I totally make up a backstory. A wandering monk passed through 3 years ago. My mother fed him, and he handed me a sacred medical scroll in return. Where's the scroll now? I tell him it rotted away to dust. He looks completely crushed, so I throw him a lifeline. I tell him I've pretty much memorized the whole thing anyway. For the next half hour I'm just talking, and he's scribbling it all down, like an eager student taking dictation from a grandmaster, just with the age gap totally reversed, which is honestly hilarious to watch unfold. By the end of it he's completely blown away, finally realizing the ugly truth. Why every single patient walking through this clinic ended up covered in nasty sores. No matter what they tried. Well, obviously they would. Nobody's ever targeted the actual root cause. He runs through the medical logic right alongside me, swapping in wolfsbane and brunette root. With the exact right balance could fully cure the addiction. Only catch, brunette root is crazy expensive. Way more than the cheap poison herb they've been pushing. I let that heavy frustration sit with him for a second, before dropping the cold truth that not every top-tier treatment is actually affordable for everyday folks, and that instantly sets him off, because he automatically assumes I'm saying poor patients should just be left to die. So I break it down for him patiently. Look, I'm not saying scrap the existing treatment outright. They've already got months, maybe years, of patients locked into this exact method, and swapping formulas on a patient base. This massive carries serious risks. The real ticking time bomb isn't even the addiction itself. It's the contaminated blood source. That stuff kills way faster than any slow detox ever could. So what do you suggest then? The shopkeeper leans in close, totally hooked now. I pull out the herbs I just gathered, raw pine needles and ox-tongue weed, and lay out a second, dirt-cheap, effortlessly sourced formula brewed into a simple tonic. Taken 3 times a day, dissolved in warm water. It'll visibly shrink those nasty sores within a week, and completely flush out the toxin buildup. Within 6 months for mild cases, and a year for severe ones, Doc. Dr. Wu just stares at the herbs, like they personally insulted his entire bloodline. Pine needles and ox-tongue weed? Targeting the root blood source? Why didn't I think of that? He's practically vibrating between manic excitement and a full-blown existential crisis, muttering about needing to raid his ancient medical scrolls to figure out how on earth something this fundamental completely slipped his mind. After a lifetime of practicing medicine, then he literally bolts out of the room and slams the door, leaving me standing there blinking. The shopkeeper lets out a long sigh and explains. Dr. Wu comes from a legendary dynasty of physicians, has saved lives his entire career, and this exact poison has completely stumped even the imperial court's elite royal doctors. So having some random kid solve it with a brilliant, budget-friendly method is bound to shatter his reality. Then the guy's entire demeanor flips into serious business mode. Time to talk for real. Turns out this pharmacy, Unge Hall, is the absolute biggest one in the entire city, and the premier powerhouse across the entire Northwest region that actually offers treatment for this exact addiction, which totally explains the massive, endless line out front every single time I've walked past. If literally everyone in the entire region detoxing from this poison funnels through this one shop. That's not just a medical treatment. That's an absolute goldmine of a revenue stream. People get sick no matter what era we're in. And that's always been the most bulletproof business model. Across any economy, modern or ancient. The shopkeeper has clearly already sized me up top to bottom. Especially the exact second I dropped real herbs out of my basket. Instead of just talking empty theory, he's definitely not buying that I walked in here with zero hidden motives. Listen, kid, you do realize, not every single pharmacy owner running things around here is purely interested in saving lives out of the goodness of their heart, right? Of course, I tell him with a smirk. Then why hand over a miraculous cure completely for free? Come on. A formula like this could have easily hooked you a massive government bounty, if you had just reported it yourself. Instead of giving it away, I just flash a cool, easy smile. I know that, but let's be real, I'm a total nobody. Zero social rank, zero powerful family backing me up. Even if I manage to keep this top-tier formula to myself, I don't have an ounce of power to protect it from vultures, let alone the high-status clout to waltz into a government office and demand a reward without getting crushed. He clearly respects how dead-on my read is, given how wildly unstable things are right now politically. Even his own high-end pharmacy wouldn't have kept a treatment like this exclusive for very long, without some serious political backing. Someone would have brazenly stolen it from under his nose ages ago. So what's your actual endgame out of all this? Don't sit there telling me you want absolutely nothing. He sets his teacup down, a knowing grin spreading across his face. Because I'm not buying that for even a second. Of course there's a catch. I look him dead in the eye and say, you said it yourself. These times are pure chaos. My wife's been sick. Studying hard for the exams costs serious cash. And just staying alive costs money. I honestly came through these doors hoping for a small favor. Never actually expected to cross paths with two genuinely good men. Like you and Dr. Wu, save the flattery. We're going to be locking horns in business for a long time. You can skip the sugarcoating every single time. Got it, Stuart? This guy is leagues ahead of the noble house and their games. He doesn't waste any time. So I match his ruthless directness. I'll hand over the detox formula completely free. And the sore treatment formula as well. But I've got one catch you need to agree to right now. Watching me drop the polite facade. He visibly kicks back like he's finally meeting the real me. Past all that initial small talk BS. What's the catch? The raw herbs for the sore treatment medicine have to come from me and me alone. Let's break down the math. That tonic has to be down 3 times a day. For at least 3 solid months. Even for mild cases at just 3 coins a dose. That's 10 whole coins a day. A full tael of silver a month per patient. And considering how widespread this addiction is, across the entire Northwest Territory, with practically every single client walking into this clinic all year, just looking for a way out of their detox nightmare. Anyone desperate to avoid rotting away from blood sores is going to buy this medicine no matter what. The sheer profit potential here is insane. And obviously, your pharmacy isn't going to flip the final tonic. For a measly 3 coins a dose, you're going to slap a massive markup on it. Even if I'm only cashing in on the raw ingredient supply, that's still a mind-blowing fortune. The shopkeeper can't help but respect the hustle. You're a dangerously smart kid, Xianing. This treatment needs a full 7 days to prove its worth. I haven't seen it pull off miracles yet. If it's a total flop, then everything you've pitched today goes right out the window as hot air and empty talk. That earlier formula upgrade won't mean a single thing either. But if it actually delivers, then every single batch of detox meds my pharmacy pushes out will source its raw herbs exclusively from you. Meanwhile, back in the village, completely blind to the massive deal going down right now, chaos is brewing. The concubine is absolutely gushing over Su Wan's gorgeous new dress, admitting that she and the senior wife totally doubted Air Ju at first, when he claimed the old him had completely changed, and actually bought his wife real threads from a shop in town, not just some cheap homemade rags. Xiao Ying and the other refugee women in the village all share Su Wan's rough background, sold off or married away after fleeing here, mostly ending up as concubines, and living right on the edge of starvation. Yesterday, thanks to the pork I hooked her up with, little Xiao Ying actually got to taste real meat for the first time in ages, and since there was so much, even the senior wife ended up sharing some with everyone. Xiao Ying tells Su Wan she's finally living the good life, and if her husband's truly turned over a new leaf, Smooth sailing is ahead. Su-won, rocking her new dress, with not a single mirror around to check it out, judges entirely by Xiao Ying's super envious stare, that she must look absolute fire. But thinking back on just how fast, and how radically I've transformed, she admits with heavy unease, I seriously don't know if this is gonna last. It just feels way too fast, way too total, almost like he's a completely different person. A different person? Xiao Ying's own husband apparently said something chillingly identical, claiming I act straight up possessed. Xiao Ying drops her voice, genuinely spooked as she brings up dark superstitions about brothels being crawling with restless ghosts, and wonders out loud if some random wandering spirit quietly hijacked my body. No way, that can't be.
Su-won swallows hard, totally terrified.
Xiao Ying starts listing the hard evidence. Brand new clothes, free meat for Ju's whole family, and speaking softly to literally everyone. None of this matches the old ruthless jerk at all. It really does feel that way. Su-won whispers, before shivering violently, as she remembers how she willingly melted into my arms last night. If a ghost actually possessed me this whole time, she basically rolled out the red carpet herself. Xiao Ying, who is even younger than Su-won, gets deeply freaked out, solemnly warning that a possession, that evil spirit is slowly draining her life force, bleeding her dry day by day. She drops the question, have I been sneaking into Su-won's bed at night? Turns out Ju is completely terrified of his actual wife, and only sneaks into Xiao Ying's quarters under the cover of darkness, scrambling back out before sunrise. Nope, Su-won shoots back, giving a sharp shake of her head. Good. Good, that means it hasn't started sapping your energy yet. Suddenly, Xiao Ying recalls something crucial. Apparently, there's this shady temple, stuck at the edge of the next village over, infamous for actually answering prayers. Supposedly, it cures possessed kids and folks having violent fits. She immediately volunteers to slip away tomorrow, and score a protective talisman for Su-won, guaranteed to banish whatever demonic entity is haunting her. Su-won nods, telling her to go ahead with the plan, since Xiao Ying's been excused from chores for a couple of days. Sneaking out should be a walk in the park, and she can just fake an excuse about visiting friends. Just make sure you don't get a standard charm.
Su-won cuts in.
What kind then? Then, Su-won grips the blanket like a lifeline and snaps. Dead serious. Get one. That makes damn sure the old Xiao Ying is gone for good. The two of them are deep in conversation, completely spooked out by all this ghost talk, when a furious, blood-curdling voice roars from outside, scaring them both straight out of their skin. Where is Xiao Ying? Drag Xiao Ying out here right now. Stepping out of the pharmacy, I make a beeline for the city gate, intending to flag down a ride, only to find Xiao Deli, the village chief's son, already waiting there with his own cart ready to roll. Xiao Ying, over here. His cart is completely empty on both sides, making it painfully obvious. He wasn't running any errands out here at all. He was waiting exclusively for me. Climb aboard. Finished with your business already? Yeah. Wasn't entirely sure if you'd rolled out yet, so I figured I'd take a chance. Yeah, take a chance, right? Xiao Deli is the village chief's golden boy. Steady, reliable, and cut from the exact same cloth as his old man. Digging through the memories in my head, the original me and this guy used to be absolute besties. He's actually the main reason the old me even bothered cracking open a book in the first place, before lazy habits dragged him down a dark path, and totally wrecked the friendship. Honestly, thank God that friendship went up in flames. Otherwise I'd have zero clue what to say to this dude right now. Halfway through the ride, he casually drops a bomb. My wife went to visit her family yesterday, and mentioned you're planning to study again. I'm thrown for a loop for a second, then remember his wife is from the city, and her younger brother works at the local bookshop. Wait, so that condescending clerk, who was side-eyeing me yesterday, is this guy's brother-in-law? Talk about a small world. Yeah, I'm seriously considering it. His wife apparently caught a glimpse of my text copying contract, and brought it up not knowing if I was actually serious. Watching me now, he looks totally convinced I'm pulling it off. Look, we go way back, so I'm just gonna cut straight to it. If you're dead serious about studying, I can talk to my old man about having the village foot the bill for your education. That completely blindsides me. I never saw this offer coming in a million years. He explains the village is sitting on a communal slush fund. They've been hoarding over the years. They never offered to sponsor the old me back then, because nobody trusted him to stick with it for 2 seconds. But now that I'm actually putting in the work, he's willing to pitch it to his dad. And honestly, it clicks instantly. In this brutal world, farmers rank just a notch above merchants, way below real scholars and officials. Managing to get even a single person from the village into an official rank, even a low-level one, massive benefits the whole community. Through taxes and actual political protection. Our village hasn't built any powerhouse clan influence yet, but there are easily 30 households sharing the same surname around here. Sure, the village head's family and mine aren't close, personally, but blood ties still carry serious weight when it counts. A single tree doesn't make a forest, after all. I'm never gonna turn down pure kindness. Hand it to me like this, seriously, thank you. Brother Dolly, I'll think over your offer. Alright, just hit me up when you make a call. The village is close enough that he drops me off right at my doorstep, but before I even hit the porch, I spot a crowd of villagers blocking my entryway, craning their necks to gawk into the yard. What's going down? Dolly starts to ask, but I'm already leaping off the cart. The crowd parts the second they realize it's me. The moment my foot hits the yard, I see red, absolute blinding fury. A pack of thugs I recognize from the Millstone crew has Suan cornered against the front door. Xiaoying is down in the dirt, clearly just booted for trying to protect her. And right as I watch, someone kicks her again, aiming straight for her head this time. Hey, little concubine. Always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Get out of the way. Stop right there. I cross the distance in 2 blazing strides, hauling Xiaoying back up to her feet. I glare at the crowd, my blood boiling. What the hell is going on here? You all decided to come terrorize my wife. The exact second I left the house, Suan's husband. She's barely holding herself up against the doorframe, and seeing me, all her tough exterior shatters instantly. Are you okay? I check her over frantically, panic and pure rage flooding my veins. Did they lay a hand on you? She shakes her head. They didn't strike her, but some of the vile women tried, ripping her brand new dress right off her, and only Xiaoying physically throwing herself in the way stopped it. Xiaoying, still wincing from that brutal kick, finally gasps out, Xianing, now that you're back, they're claiming you owe them cash. They said they were taking Suan's dress as collateral. Oh, debts and payment? Before I can even process that, some sharp-tongued bint shoves forward, totally indignant. Legit debts get paid. That's just how the world works. He owes us silver, and meanwhile, some broke refugee beggars are strutting around in expensive store-bought clothes, while the people who lent him cash they can't even afford their own basic clothes. Where'd the cash for that even come from? Blowing money on pure luxury items, instead of paying us back? Absolutely shameless. Shameless? I've lived 2 full lifetimes, and not a single soul has ever dared say that to my face. I almost laugh, except I'm boiling with rage. Is your blacksmith husband dead, sending his wife out to do his dirty work? I owe your family money, not my life. You think you can just rip my wife's clothes off in front of the entire village and walk away clean? My voice drops, freezing cold, forcing the blacksmith's wife to actually step back. For a split second, then looking at her husband for backup, she doubles down instead. Don't you threaten me. I'll strip her right here and now. If you don't cough up the cash, take one more step, and something inside me snaps. I yank the woodcutting knife straight out of my basket and hold it right at her throat. The crowd completely loses it. Good grief. Sining pulle da blade. Murder. Call it murder, Sining. Calm down, man. A neighbor dives in fast, desperately trying to get between us. I angle the blade away without lowering it an inch. I am not moving until everyone here understands. Nobody touches my wife. Finally clicks. In this village, the men measure each other purely by status, and the women in their households get treated exactly, as well as their husbands are respected. The old me? Apparently commanded absolute zero respect from anyone, man or woman. If I don't draw a hard line right now, in front of this whole crowd, Suwan and I are gonna get walked all over for the rest of our lives. Hey, blacksmith. If you've got the balls to step up like a real man, settle this account face-to-face right this second. Otherwise, keep your wife out of our business. If I end up hurting her defending myself, Don't look at me. The blacksmith can't hide behind the cowing crowd anymore. He steps forward with a nasty scowl, acting like he's the victim here. Si Ning. This loan is written in black and white. Either pony up right now, or fork over the 3 acres you put up as collateral. So that's what this is actually about. And for once, I seriously don't blame my past self at all. His parents passed away back to back, leaving the house completely empty. And at 19 he wasn't about to bury them wrapped in straw mats. With no coffin in sight, he borrowed 5 taels from the blacksmith to afford decent coffins, using the family's only good farmland, 3 whole acres, as leverage. Debts get paid, that's just fair play. I owe your family the silver, but I don't owe you a single thing beyond that. I keep my voice dead steady and crystal clear, loud enough for the whole crowd to hear. I borrowed 5 taels for my parents' coffins, put up 3 acres as collateral, agreed to a steep 10% monthly interest rate, coming out to 300 coins a month. And I haven't missed a single payment, not once. So why? Exactly. Did your wife think it was okay to march in here and publicly humiliate mine? And now you're here scheming to steal the land outright, on top of all the profit you've already raked in. Talk about a low-key grift you've got going on. The crowd erupts again, and turns out no one had any idea the loan was actually a shady land grab, loaded with brutal interest. And suddenly people remember spotting the blacksmith and his wife harvesting crops right off that exact plot of land last fall, thinking at the time they were just being helpful neighbors. Turns out they weren't helping at all. They were harvesting their own private stash, off land they had already low-key claimed as theirs. The crowd immediately turns on the blacksmith, because apparently he's been pulling this exact dirty trick on other villagers too, acting like a charitable saint for funding their funerals, while secretly seizing their best farmland. Behind closed doors, someone recalls that time. The blacksmith coldly refused to spot a sick kid's family any cash last year, and it all finally clicks into place. He had already tied up all his capital, stealing other people's real estate instead. Stop running your mouth and cough up the cash. The blacksmith snaps, his voice venomous. Now I don't flinch. Bring me the land deed, and I'll pay you back down to the very last coin. He's already got the deed on him, clearly rolling up today, fully planning to snatch the land outright, never dreaming I'd actually be able to pay. The crowd goes wild at the sheer size of the number. 5 taels of silver. More cash than anyone in this entire village, barring the village head's own family, could ever drop on the spot. Suddenly everyone finally gets why. I've been way too busy to chat lately. I genuinely struck it rich. I spot Adelie staring at me like I'm a total stranger. The guy had low-key been stressing that any cash I got would just fund a fast-track return to the brothel. Instead, here I am, crushing my debts, and apparently dead serious about hitting the books for a few days. To him, I'm a completely changed man. Hand over the deed, I say, holding my palm out. The blacksmith's face twists into a scowl. He forks it over, but tries to squeeze in one last angle, whining that the month's almost over, trying to low-key tack on another month of interest. Adelie instantly jumps in to back me up. He doesn't owe you March's interest, and he sure as hell doesn't owe you April's in advance. I pull out everything I'm packing. 2 small silver pieces, 1 solid 5-tael piece, and a heavy fistful of loose copper coins. I slide the 5 taels straight over to Adelie, asking him to officiate the transaction, and personally retrieve my parents' land deed. Partly so the blacksmith can't pull any shady moves right in front of the whole town, and partly because I'm more than happy to hand Adelie this exact kind of public W. He's the village head's son. He seriously needs these little victories. Adelie takes the silver, looking stunned, then hardens up toward the blacksmith, demanding both the deed and the loan note. The blacksmith reluctantly drags out the loan note, and Adelie snatches it straight out of his grip, before he can even hand it over properly. That's right when the blacksmith's wife pipes up again, still crying that 5 taels ain't cutting it, claiming we shook hands on an extra 3 months of interest, and demanding yet another tael. 1 month's juice was already double the legal rate, so 3 extra months on top would run us 900 coins, which is still a cool 100 short of a full tael anyway. She can't even do basic math. A handful of villagers shoot her utterly disgusted glares. I'm so done playing nice, I scatter the loose Copper coins right across the dirt in front of her, and dropped the hammer. Empty threats. Huh? Just trying to squeeze me dry now? You want this cash so bad? You miserable hag. Bend your back and pick it up yourself. I grind a single coin deep into the mud with my heel. Dead silence. So dead you can literally hear someone swallowing. Nobody saw this coming. Some pushover who got bullied his whole life, suddenly flashing a blade, and completely humiliating an entire family in one afternoon. Even Dolly's brain short-circuits for a second, until he catches the killer look I shoot him. This is his absolute moment to step up, not sugarcoat things. If he's ever gonna take the reins from his old man, as the village head someday, this is precisely the kind of chaos he needs to handle. Head on instead of playing Switzerland. The blacksmith's face turns ghost white. Not only did their blatant land grab totally flop, he's just lost every last shred of self-respect in front of the whole town. His wife eyeballs the coins scattered on the dirt, clearly tempted, and starts to reach down, only to get violently kicked by her own husband. Pick it up? Have some damn shame. Get inside right now. Once they finally scurry off, the yard settles into an awkward, tense quiet. I turn around to check on Suwon, and that's when a timid voice pipes up from the crowd. Xianing? You owe me cash too. Me too, man. Remember right before New Year's, you borrowed 200 coins from my household. You owe my family 100. And mine. I am this close to losing my mind. Just how many people did the original me hit up for loans? Thankfully, Dolly steps in to restore order. Look, if you genuinely lent him money, speak up if you didn't catch that. Shut your traps and stop piling on. Debts get paid. Fair is fair. And since I'm the one trapped in this body now, I'm the one who's footing the bill. For the next several minutes, I'm tossing coins out to half the village. 100 here, 200 there, 50, 30 until I'm completely tapped out, and forced to scrape my own dropped loose change off the dirt, just to cover the rest. Right as the mob finally starts to clear out, someone tugs on my sleeve. I look down. It's Dolly's 5-year-old kid, face all red and sniffling, looking up at me with dead serious eyes. Uncle Ning, you still owe me 5 coins. That was my New Year's money from Grandma. You promised you'd pay me back. My original self apparently scammed. A literal toddler out of his holiday allowance. I literally have no words for how shameless this guy was. I rub my face, forcing myself into something resembling a dignified adult, and count out 10 coins through gritted teeth. Here's your 5 coins back, plus 5 extra for waiting so patiently. The kid flashes a massive, gap-toothed grin, and bows dramatically. Thank you, Uncle Ning. All right, go play. Dolly ruffles his son's hair, visibly fighting a laugh. Go ahead and laugh if you're gonna. I snap at him, jaw clenched. He completely loses it, bursting into roaring laughter. Just when I think today's debt nightmare is finally over, Zhang Lizi steps out from the remaining crowd, his eyes sharp and dripping with pure resentment. Xia Ning, you paid back a 5-year-old. So what about what you owe me? Of course this shit never ends. If it had been literally anyone else asking for cash, I probably would have just paid up and kept walking. But it's this guy. I point at myself, then right back at him, my voice dripping with absolute disbelief. I owe you money? Zhang Lizi is the type of coward who only picks fights he thinks he can win, knowing full well Dolly is standing right here protecting me. But he's low-key seething, watching half the village walk off with my hard-earned cash. So he pushes back anyway. Of course you owe me. Who do you think funded your little brothel runs? The second that word drops out of his mouth, Suwon's expression instantly shatters. I whip around, catching her staring at me, completely frozen. And the words fly out of my mouth before my brain can even catch up. I never set foot in that place. You never went? Then who was begging me to take him there? Just to see what the hype was about, Xianing? Don't forget where you came from. Or your mother's. That's it. I'm done. I grab the heavy woodcutting knife and launch it without a second thought. Not even blinking. The blade buries itself deep into the dirt barely an inch from his boot, the handle still violently vibrating from the sheer impact. Zhang Lizi nearly jumps clean out of his skin. 3 more inches to the left, and that steel would have skewered his foot. Get out. Now, say one more word and I'll skin you alive myself. Everyone standing in the yard, even Dolly, is visibly shaken to their core. The old me was a total pushover who cringed at the slightest conflict. And look at me now, flinging throwing knives like it's nothing. To them, I'm practically a different species. Scening. Even Dolly looks genuinely spooked for a second. Sure, village squabbles happen, but nobody actually wants blood on their hands. He pulls me back and barks at Zhang Lizi to get lost. Once the crowd finally disperses, Dolly turns back to me with a dead serious look. Really think over what we talked about today. He means the village chipping in to fund my studies. He's had my back big time today, and pooling resources always beats trying to solo life. I will, brother Dolly. He sighs. I know what the blacksmith's family pulled was straight garbage, but if you're serious about these exams, you've got to rein in that fiery temper. Don't lose the watermelon chasing a damn sesame seed. It's not worth it. Reputation is everything for an aspiring scholar. I already know all of that. Still, there's a stubborn streak in me that refuses to bend. I completely understand what you mean, brother Dolly. A man can endure a whole lot of nonsense in this life. Some things, though, you just can't swallow. I can stand here and let people throw dirt at me all day long. I'm never letting anyone disrespect my wife. He shakes his head, totally gives up on the lecture, and bails. I help Su-won inside, keeping my voice reassuring. Nobody's ever laying a hand on us again. Promise. She nods, still shaking from actual terror today, petrified of getting stripped bare in front of everyone. Whatever else she is, just the daughter of a disgraced official. She'd rather drop dead than suffer that kind of humiliation. Husband. She finally drops the question. She's been holding back the entire time. How on earth did we suddenly get this much cash? I lay it out honestly this time. Stumbled across a dead deer in the mountains. Flipped it for coin, bought food, and wiped out our debts. Nothing shady, I swear. Pure relief washes over her face the second she hears it's clean money. She's crying again, her nose all red, looking up at me with this fragile, heartbreaking kind of expression. She isn't even 18 yet, and she's officially my wife. Locked down on paper with an official government stamp. Without even really thinking about it, I pull her straight into my arms. The moment her body presses against mine, we both freeze up completely for a second. Then, something in me settles. I'm just a transmigrated soul dropped into a completely messed up world, and she's a girl who's spent her whole life at the absolute mercy of others. Somehow, our chaotic fates tangle together anyway. I gently stroke her hair. Su-won, I promise you, as long as I'm breathing, nobody lays a finger on you again. Listening to my heartbeat this close, she feels something solid anchor in her chest. For the first time in what feels like forever, she quietly tells herself, I don't even fully know who you are anymore, but whatever you say to me, I'm buying it. Financial-wise, though, the math is brutal. 12 taels from the dear -7 for the old debts, plus what we dropped on food and basic threads. I'm currently sitting at just over 3 taels total. No table, a house that's basically falling apart, and brutal civil exams coming up. Even with that pharmacy partnership practically in the bag, I can't start spending money I haven't actually earned yet. Money, man. Cash is king. Everything comes down to money. Once the crowd finally clears out, I notice they literally ripped the front door off its hinges during all the madness. I toss the splintered wood aside and clean up the yard, then grab some leftover herbs and a solid chunk of fat meat, and head over to Uncle Air Juice Place, mostly to thank Xiaoing for stepping in to take a hit and protect Su-won. Turns out neither Air Ju nor his wife are even home, and Xiaoing is too terrified to fully open the door. She just murmurs a few words through the crack before clamming up completely. I drop the supplies by the door and head back home, figuring I shouldn't push it. Her husband is away. She's a concubine playing it safe. And honestly, I've got my own wife waiting for me anyway. After a quick lunch, I lock myself right in the kitchen. The exam system here works pretty much how I expected. The first major hurdle is locking down scholar status, which means passing both a county exam and a prefecture exam, just to be eligible to test for the actual scholar rank. County exams usually drop in February, but this year's brutal blizzard totally scrambled the schedule. From what I recall, the new test dates got pushed to early April. That leaves me with under 20 days. The required reading list? For books. 5 classics, including the Analects, the Great Learning, the Book of Rites, the Spring and Autumn Annals, and the Book of Songs, over 100,000 characters in total. even with a lifetime of experience as a standardized test-taking machine back home. That is an insane amount of cramming for this timeline. Whatever, I made my bed. Time to grind. Once I lock into hardcore study mode, nothing short of the sky falling is getting through to me. I bury myself in the kitchen all afternoon, until it's way too dark to read. By the time I finally surface, I've got the entire doctrine of the mean memorized cold. Even lying in bed later that night, my brain is still looping through textbook passages, barely registering Suwin's shy glances, or her attempts to strike up a conversation. The next morning, before the sun is even fully up, I'm already up making breakfast, right after finishing up the manuscript copies. From the bookstore, I leave breakfast warming in the pot, tell Suwon not to wait up for me, and bolt straight for the mountains before she can even reply. I desperately need cash, and until the pharmacy deal is officially locked in, foraging herbs is my only real lifeline. There's a fire burning in me right now that I haven't felt since I got here. I'm halfway down the mountain trail, before most of the village has even finished their morning chow, when Urju's cart rolls up, loaded to the brim with firewood. Need a lift, brother Urju? I hop on the back without a second thought, heading back into town to hit the pharmacy, and drop off my finished handwritten texts at the bookstore. Glad to see you're finally on the right path, he says, looking genuinely emotional about it. That's right when I notice a fresh, angry gash on his face. What on earth happened to your face? Turns out he's still furious. The local blacksmith and his wife had rolled up to his house yesterday afternoon, trying to intimidate and bully them too, and even laid hands on Urju's wife. So he and his missus marched right over there, and beat the absolute hell out of both of them, as payback. You didn't hear all the screaming yesterday afternoon? I honestly had no idea. I was locked in the kitchen all afternoon studying, completely zoned out. Your wife got dragged into it too? I'm already starting to laugh. Turns out, his wife was the one who kicked off the carnage, straight up mounting the blacksmith's wife, and mercilessly pummeling her. Urju only got carved up, because he tried hauling her away, before she caused permanent damage. I completely lose it picturing his wife going full berserker mode. Once we hit the city, Urju peels off to sell his firewood, while I head straight for the pharmacy. The shopkeeper looks genuinely shocked to see me. The detox medicine takes a solid 7 days to show any real results. Why are you back already? I flash him a grin. I can wait on the medical results, but I sure as hell ain't waiting on my paycheck. Hustled up some fresh herbs today. Time to cash out. He lets out a hearty laugh, calls me a little hustler, and sends me over to the apprentice to weigh and log everything. 218 coins total. Wanna count it? The kid asks. No need. Before I can even pocket it, Dr. Wu comes barreling out from the back, eyes lighting up like he just spotted his own grandson. Perfect timing. Come take a look at a few of my test patients. In the back room, 7 patients of various ages lie on beds. Dr. Wu points to 2 severely emaciated men, faces completely covered in sores. These 2 have the worst symptoms. I needled them this morning. Pulse is still erratic. Take a look. I sit down and check their pulses myself, and it confirms what Dr. Wu said. The addiction's gone deep in both of them. I ask about their appetite, breathing, and whether the sores itch. The first man answers honestly. He eats fine, but lying down feels like a stone's crushing his chest. The sores don't hurt or itch at all. The second, older one says pretty much the same, except today's new medicine made the area around his sores hurt badly, way worse than the younger patient. I press around. The swollen tissue near his sores hurts right here? Yes, exactly there. I grab a needle and push it right at the edge of the sore. Here too? No pain there. That tells me everything. His poisoning has already moved into his internal organs, the surface. Sores are just the body's way of pushing the toxin out, but the damage has gone way past what the skin alone can handle. He sees my expression, turns stone cold and panics. Young man, what does that mean? Am I not going to make it? I don't answer him directly, turning to Dr. Wu instead. The poison's already deep in his organs. Detox medicine alone can't outpace it. At this point, could I take over treating this one? These patients already signed life and death waivers to test the medicine for free. The clinic feeds them 3 square meals a day, and if they die, their families get 300 coins. Their lives are yours to work with however you see fit. Dr. Wu strokes his beard, eyes locked in pure, unfiltered excitement rather than dread. Totally like a die-hard fan watching his favorite season finale live. I snap my gaze to the apprentice. Bring me a tail of camphor powder right now. 2 tails of honeysuckle ground down to dust. Plus 2 flat blade scalpels and forceps. Surgical scissors, and a steaming bucket of boiled water. Now, the herb names don't faze anyone here. The scalpels, scissors, and boiling water? Absolutely terrifying. Scissors, forceps, boiling water, and a bladed knife. What on earth is this guy actually planning to do to me? The older patient death grips Dr. Wu's arm, refusing to let go for dear life. Doc, I am not ready to die. I signed the waiver, sure. But that doesn't mean you get to carve me open like a holiday roast. That sudden, raw outburst instantly triggers every single patient in the room. And onlookers outside start craning their necks in sheer disbelief. Over on another bed, a guy named Zhao Arua tracks my every move like a hawk. He's a city constable who got hooked on the poison years ago, just trying to suck up to some higher-up. Unlike the others here, he's not flat broke and completely desperate. He's here because every time the addiction flares up, it deadass wrecks his actual police career. Feels like thousands of ants, gnawing through his bones from the inside out. With the drug now heavily banned, even an active officer caught using it would drag his entire family down into ruin. Under the law. Meaning this sketchy underground clinic is his absolute last resort. He already choked down a bowl of medicine this morning, and slammed 2 herbal pills at noon. Sure, the constant itching and bone ache in his limbs has chilled out. But watching Dr. Wu wheel in some random young punk, ready to slice open the dude right next to him, has his fists white-knuckling the blanket. Waiver signed or not. Nobody is bringing a blade near this place without a bloody war. Right in the adjacent bed over. An older woman named Auntie Zhang shares that exact same terror. She started using the substance years back just to stay awake through the night, grinding away at embroidery work, desperate to fund her son's tuition. Now that it's banned, her steady supply is completely gone. And she's secretly signed a waiver behind her son's back out of pure panic, bracing herself for the absolute worst while watching real surgery unfold right before her eyes, knowing full well she's probably next on the chopping block, breaking her out in a cold sweat. With the relentless pounding of old Dr. Wu, the room descends into absolute chaos, as Andy Zhang begs Dr. Wu not to murder anyone, reminding everybody they only signed up for drug trials. Not to get butchered. The constable backs her up. Word is already leaking out to the waiting room, and within minutes the rumors skyrocket. From a minor medical procedure into the clinic executing patients by 1,000 cuts. Man, rumors really do fly fast. I glance at the sea of heads, jammed against the window, and totally lose my patience enough with the wailing. Before Dr. Wu can even step in to explain, I clamp my hand down on the guy's shoulder, and shove a rag straight into his mouth. Before he can object any further. I'm trying to treat you here. Keep screaming that I'm here to torture you, and I might actually start carving some real meat off that skeleton of yours. Well, that backfired spectacularly. Now half the room is convinced. I'm genuinely about to chop people up for parts. Someone outside even suggests reporting this to the authorities, until someone else points out there's a literal police constable lying right there in the room, witnessing the whole thing. Dr. Wu, old and completely unbothered, isn't fazed by any of this drama. He already knows the basic detox medicine alone. Hasn't been cutting it for these severe cases. He's been waiting for this exact moment. For someone who actually knows how to handle it. He pats my shoulder. Everything's ready. That's all you now. I get to work fast, strapping the guy's limbs tightly to the bed frame, which to everybody watching looks entirely like preparing an execution. Instead of any actual medical treatment, I rip his shirt open, palpating the biggest infected lump on his chest. To confirm its size and placement, I pick up the flat blade. This won't hurt a bit. Hold still. This blade is basically this era's equivalent of a surgical scalpel. Super crude compared to what I trained on, but worlds better than a wood-chopping knife. When toxins build up under the skin like this, they pool into clotted, blackened masses beneath the surface that the body can't flush out on its own. I make the incision. The blood starts red, then turns pitch black instantly, and I pull out a solid, fist-sized chunk of congealed poison, straight from under his flesh. He doesn't feel a thing, but his eyes go so wide. I'm genuinely worried they'll pop out of his skull. The blood. Why is it black? What is that? He literally just pulled a dark mass out of his own chest. Xiao Erua, the local constable, has a front row seat to the entire nightmare, and freezes dead in his tracks. He never in his wildest dreams imagined a drug could create something this monstrous inside a human body. But I don't stop. Black clots keep coming, one after another, from his chest, then his neck, armpits, groin, and finally his limbs, systematically clearing every major lymph cluster. When I hit the groin area, even Annie Zhang completely forgets to look away out of modesty, morbidly fascinated as these foul masses slide out, sort of like watching someone pop a massive blackhead, except terrifyingly giant and visceral. Erling the powder. The apprentice snaps out of it and rushes the herbal mix over. Sure, high-tech sterilization gear doesn't exist in this era, but since I'm not making deep surgical cuts, just draining surface-level clots, the infection risk is totally manageable. As long as the medicine hits the wound immediately, I rapid-fire a follow-up prescription. 5-finger peach root, plantain, atractalodes, groundsel, and ginseng. I wash my hands and look dead at Doctor Who. Special cases call for aggressive treatment. When the poison sinks this deep into the bones, you have to attack it both internally and externally at once. New medicine 3 times a day, and we clear out the clots every 10 days like clockwork, until he's fully cured. Meanwhile, the apprentice is just standing there, his mind completely blown, staring at me like I'm a literal living god. A full recovery takes time and varies case by case. After all, the guy's been hooked for years. But the surface toxins are cleared out now, so he should bounce back big time by tonight. The man blinks, slowly snapping back to reality like waking from a heavy fever dream. His bed is drenched in blood, his chest, neck, and limbs completely sliced open, and somehow the guy is still breathing, not even in pain and that crushing weight on his chest he's been whining about for years is already totally lifted. Everyone in the room is locked in, staring like they just witnessed a literal miracle. This kid looks barely 18 or 19 years old. How on earth does he pull off medicine like this? Zhao Arua's hand drifts straight to a lump on his own neck, the exact same type of mass, probably smaller than what was just dragged out of this guy. If a severe case like this can actually be treated, Auntie Zhang is thinking the exact same thing right now. Her case is the mildest in the whole room, since she could barely afford any of the drug to begin with. If this stuff actually cures people, maybe she can finally keep funding her son's schooling. After all, every single patient in this room, who once suspected the clinic, was just selling them a fast track to the grave. With that waiver now realizes the exact opposite is true. This isn't a death warrant at all. It's a golden ticket, wiping their names off death's door for good. I can actually be saved? I'm gonna live? Yeah, you'll live, I say, glancing at him completely unfazed. Want a side of fries with all that dead meat I just carved out of you? Benefactor. You saved my life, you're literally a second father to me. He tries to scramble out of bed to drop to his knees and thank me right, but I snatch his arm before he can even move. Chill out, I'm way too young for that kind of worship. Lie your ass back down or you'll undo everything I just fixed. That threat hits instantly. He crashes right back onto the mattress, petrified of messing up his own recovery. I tell the apprentice to keep his diet super light. Moving forward, rice congee with minced meat if possible. He's just staring right through me, totally spaced out, so I snap my fingers and wave a hand in his face. Hello? Earth to patient? Total starstruck silence. The guy didn't hear a single word. Keep dinner super light. I'm warning you. Right before Dr. Wu drops another kick. Did you even bother writing down the prescription Xianing gave? Spoiler alert, nope, he didn't. To save myself from taking a boot to the ribs, I just snatch a pen and write the thing out myself. By the time I'm finally finished, the shopkeeper has already caught wind of everything. Secondhand from the gossiping crowd. Word is out that UNG Hall is hiding a miracle. Young doctor working absolute magic in the back room. That detox partnership? Practically locked down solid after today. Zero doubt about it. Now he's looking at me with pure, unfiltered awe. Man, gathering herbs with Xianing is no real career path. Why not just lock down a position right here? Same pay as Dr. Wu, 5 taels a month. He holds up 5 fingers like he's dangling prime bait. 5 taels a month is honestly solid bag by local standards. But I already know precisely how I crashed and burned in my past life, working myself straight to death right over a surgery table. I didn't get a second shot at life, just to repeat the exact same tragic mistake. I'm totally down to use my medical skills for a nice side hustle, but going full-time physician again? Hard pass. I seriously appreciate the offer, but it's just not the vibe I want. Then what on earth do you want? Dr. Wu is genuinely baffled, especially considering how effortlessly I diagnosed and treated completely different, complex cases today, moving smoother than he ever could after a lifetime of practice. He's clearly suspicious of my whole wandering monk, handed me a mystical book cover story by now, too. So I just lay it out straight. A doctor only saves one person at a time, while a high court official can save an entire nation. Treating the sick is noble, honorable work, but I'm gunning for a totally different path. And that statement hits way harder than expected. Dr. Wu goes dead silent, genuinely moved, admitting he spent years since the drug crisis first started, wondering how to actually fix the root of the problem, instead of just slapping band-aids on wounds one patient at a time. But hey, he's just a doctor, he's capped by those limits. If I actually grind and climb high enough through the imperial exams, I could do infinitely more good than he ever could. Stuck right here, I just nod along, secretly knowing I'm mostly just chatting to sound profound, rather than speaking strict gospel. I definitely am not driven by some noble calling to save the empire. I'm practical to a fault, and looking at how fast this dynasty is totally crumbling. From the ground up, the entire royal court is a complete clown show. I've got zero interest in playing the hero reformer, but staying a doctor forever, even a genius one, leaves me totally exposed. One political shakeup, one vicious enemy, and a doctor's title won't save a thing. Taking the imperial exams is simply the smart, long-term play for self-preservation. Those two look completely stoked. The old man and the shopkeeper, both glowing with second-hand idealism, while I secretly bask in dropping an absolute mic drop. The whole procedure took nearly an hour. I skipped lunch with them to drop off my copied manuscript at the local bookstore. Walking outside, I'm getting stared down like a prime suspect. Word has already leaked about the miracle doctor, and two middle-aged aunties literally chase me down the street, demanding to know if I'm single. I have to sprint 2 full blocks to shake them, ducking into the bustling market district behind the pharmacy. I grab a hot flatbread and browse around, stopping at a stall. How much for the silk flowers? 8 coins each. I pick out a pale yellow one, the exact same shade as the undergarments Su Wan was rocking the first time I set her bones. Then I grab a blue one, too, to match her new dress. 2 for 10 coins? 10? The vendor cackles. You drive a hard bargain for a scholar. After a bit of friendly haggling, she caves to my charm and lets both go for 12. Silk flower hairpins are basically this era's version of budget glam accessories. Metal wire twisted into floral shapes. Since everyday women can't afford real gold or silver, yet they've still got a subtle charm of their own. Tucking the flowers away, I'm already picturing how she'll look wearing one. My wife is genuinely breathtaking. Bright eyes, tiny waist, legs for days. Honestly, she'd turn heads, even back in my old world. Except all I'm clutching is dirt cheap silk. Not real bling. A proper hairpin would hit way different. The bookstore's right around the bend, so I'm not even rushing on my way over. I pass a combo pawn shop and jewelry joint, and pull up golds totally out of my budget. But silver might actually be worth a look. And if not today, there's always later, once I've actually got cash flowing in. I wander inside. The clerk doesn't even bother greeting me, totally sizing me up as some broke scholar. Not worth the trouble letting me browse completely solo. No glass display cases in here, just roped-off sections behind the counter, where you can eyeball everything, but touch absolutely zilch after a couple laps around the shop. I finally get it. All those imperial court dramas about concubines fighting for the emperor's favor were never actually about the man at all. It was always about securing access to jewelry like this. The case is stacked with silver hairpins, sculpted like clouds and inlaid with white jade, agate mica and tourmaline. Genuinely breathtaking craftsmanship, even for a shop tucked this far from the capital. If this is what a backwater town's jewelry store is pushing, I can't even fathom what actual noble households are rocking. Excuse me, how much for that one right there? I point straight at a silver hairpin, featuring a dangling white jade pendant. 3 taels. The clerk mutters 3. The pure silver barely even weighs a single tael. And that jade pendant looks like leftover scrap from a bigger piece. The production cost probably isn't even 2 taels. Talk about a massive markup. What about this one? I gesture to a palm-sized jade ornament. That one's way pricier, 13 taels. I wind up working my way through almost all the white jade pieces on display. Surprisingly, the clerk stays chill through the whole thing. Zero eye rolling, which I definitely respect. Subtly touching the jade pendant I've been stashing in my sleeve. I casually toss out. This place is connected to the pawn shop right next door, right? Same owner, and nobody else is around to eavesdrop. So he relaxes his posture a bit. Same owner, yeah. You got something you're trying to pawn, scholar? Lately, folks are pawning literally anything they own. Even their blankets. Just to scrap together pocket change for a cheap meal. I asked, do you guys need proof of where an item came from? Obviously, if it's something the government's actively hunting down, we won't touch it. Translation in my head? Anything officially flagged gets flat out refused. But otherwise, nobody asks too many questions. Could you take a look at this? And tell me what it's worth. I drop the jade pendant on the counter. The clerk's face stays deadpan, inspecting the quality and flipping it over a few times. This is worth something, but I want my boss to confirm. If you're serious about pawning it, let me take it back. Sure, go ahead. I wait nearly an hour, starting to wonder if they swapped it for something worse. Behind the curtain. Before the clerk finally returns. Scholar. You want to sell this outright or pawn it temporarily? What's the difference? He glances toward the back room, keeping his voice low. Outright sale. 20 taels cash right now, done. Buying it back later is basically impossible. Temporary pawn, 10 taels, 100 coins, monthly interest. 10 times the going rate either way. So the jade's not worth as much as I assumed, which actually settles something for me. If it's not particularly valuable, it's probably not dangerous either. I was originally planning to hold onto it for emergencies, but if it's pocket change, there's no real risk attached to selling it now. Plus. Thinking back to the man I stitched up at the city gate, clearly some kind of trained fighter, would someone on a dangerous mission really carry a status symbol like that around, let alone hand it off to a random stranger? Even one who just saved his life? Doesn't add up. Probably just a nice trinket. Nothing more. I sell it outright, grab the cash and head straight for the bookshop. The shop owner checks my handwriting against the original sample and pays out the 100 coins as agreed. And I lock down a fresh contract for the complete book of rights. Copying gig, then camp out right in the shop. To grind through old exam papers for free. The pricing on these things is all over the place, depending on the commentator's reputation. The absolute elite scholarly annotations stay heavily guarded by powerful families, but whatever hits the open market is at least written by minor, successful candidates who actually have some name recognition. Even at that level, I'm completely hooked. My first real hurdle is just clearing the county exam. In April, the brutal essay formats and formal court drafting only matter much later on, long after becoming an official scholar. I snatch up a volume of past prefecture exam questions and instantly lose track of an entire hour reading it, completely blanking on the clerk, clearing his throat over and over right next to me. By the time I finish tearing through the next volume, more book of rights material to copy and lock into memory. It's already noon. Excuse me. I'd like to settle up. These study materials are technically way above what the basic county and prefecture exams actually demand. Those only test a fundamental grasp of the 4 books, and 5 classics plus some basic arithmetic. Honestly though, that works out just fine for me, since a lot of the analysis in here aligns with my own thinking anyway. The clerk, looking half asleep behind the counter, takes the books from me, assuming I'm just window shopping, like every other broke freeloader who never buys a thing. He yawns right through the total. 1 tael, 300 cash. I pull out a solid handful of coins. The literal second he catches the heavy mix of silver and copper in my hand, his eyes snap wide open. He'd been secretly writing me off as some penniless scholar this entire time, and seriously wasn't expecting me to drop actual cash. He starts scrambling to wrap the books in oil paper, suddenly super sheepish. So, you know Sia Dally, right? Yeah, we're family. He's my older cousin. I watch him stumble over his words, during this abrupt attitude shift and smirk. You're his brother-in-law? Yep, that's me. My sister's married to the guy. Meet Lucci. He's awkwardly scratching his head, totally stressing over how he acted earlier. Listen, that whole meltdown back there wasn't really about you. We've just had way too many freeloaders lately, just camping out to read for free, you know? No worries, man. I get it. Anything you want me to pass along. To your sister and brother-in-law. Seeing as I'm heading back to the village? I eye the kid, maybe 13, maybe 14. I'm not about to hold a petty grudge against someone that young. Actually, nothing special. Dolly's in town often enough anyway. Alright, take care. I say my goodbyes and head out, way too distracted to even watch where I'm going, and straight up slam into someone blocking the doorway. Watch where you're going. Are you blind, seeing? Wait, what? I blink, finally placing the face. The original me's cousin. Siayatsu? You're Siayazu? What are you even doing here? He looks genuinely shook seeing me at a bookstore, flanked by a crew of other young guys in scholar robes. Local students, by the looks of them. What else would someone do at a bookstore? Besides buy books? Use them for kindling? I totally blow him off and try to walk past. He blocks me again. Oh, I get it now, his entire tone shifting into pure, smug trash. You're here to corner me about borrowing money again, aren't you? I literally flinch at the mere mention of the word borrow at this point. And of course, this specific cousin's go-to instinct is absolute contempt. The original me's cousin, his uncle's kid, apparently never liked him at all. Or more accurately, looked down on him his entire life. Classic one-sided garbage. Good dogs don't block the road. Move. I've got zero patience left for this drama. I try to step around him, but he doubles down, grinning smugly. Just spit it out. You came here to beg for cash. Didn't you? Can't even admit it straight to my face now? I honestly don't even know how to respond to that. We might share a last name, but we definitely don't share a single brain cell between the lot of us. I size up the little clique blocking my path. 3 of them looking totally hollowed out. Dark circles etched under their eyes. Completely drained from heavy drinking and loose women. Sure, the original me was a total brothel-hopping degenerate. But Xia Yaozu's crew isn't any better. Memory check. These 2 used to constantly run into each other at shady dens. Neither one of them judging the other's pathetic life. Both equally broke and completely useless. Just one of us drinking away in a private room, while the other gambled over scraps in the main hall. Talk about the pot calling the kettle. Standing right next to Yaozu in high-end silk is a guy I instantly recognize. The arrogant heir of a rival pharmacy business. Goes by the surname Peng while Yaozu loudly claims, I'm only here to beg him for a bailout loan. Which is really just him. Flexing hard in front of his buddies. At my expense, but I seriously don't have time for this. I shoulder check straight past him. Move, losers don't block the highway. I catch him dead in the gut with an elbow. He doubles over instantly, biting his tongue. Too proud to cry out in front of his crew. Even though he's taking massive damage, Yaozu wheezes. Are you okay? Forcing it out through clenched teeth. I'm totally fine, glaring daggers at my back. Grinding his teeth like a madman. I really should have checked the calendar before stepping foot outside today. Bumping into this clown is absolute trash luck. Peng Jishin smirks. Your cousin's actually kind of interesting though. He usually acts like you don't even exist. Yet today he randomly shows up at a bookstore. What was he even doing in a place like this? Sure doesn't look like he hit you up for cash. What else would he possibly be doing here? Yaozu doubles down, insisting I must have come to buy trashy dirty magazines. Only backtracking on his lone narrative. Because his bros were watching closely. Another guy from the squad, looking sickly and clearly strapped for cash himself, pushes back with a soft correction, saying he actually caught me browsing legitimate literature. Maybe the guy is actually trying to study for Real. No shot, Yaozu fires back defensively, demanding they interrogate the clerk to settle the score once and for all. What did that punk buy just now? He belts out, tell me it was filthy smut books, right? While old man Lu keeps clicking away at his abacus behind the counter. He doesn't even look up, having caught every single word of that exchange. And he is far from thrilled watching the original May's own cousin team up with complete strangers just to roast him. Watch your mouth. He literally bought a full set of official exam papers, worth half a tael. Are you guys buying anything or just wasting my time? Stop blocking my doorway. I've actually got a business to run here. Meanwhile, completely disconnected from any of this circus, the local jewelry shop owner is heading straight for the clandestine back door of the Li estate. Li Wu, you've done a stellar job. The high-ranking official inside praises him, adding that if you hadn't caught wind of the dark unrest brewing heavily with the northern tribes, and rushed word to General Qian right on time, the innocent people near Biching would have paid with their lives. The heavily wounded officer resting on the bed. Yes, Li Wu, the guy who just got stitched up, speaks up with white-hot rage about how vital disaster relief grain, meant specifically for the starving, famine-stricken region, keeps getting skimmed away by greedy corrupt officials, before it can ever reach anyone who actually needs it. Not to mention how those 3 major cities would have been completely wiped off the map if those savage northern raiders had managed to break through too. There's nothing we can do about that now, official Liang Jichong says heavily, wearing the weight of the world. I'm only responsible for keeping one single region afloat. Natural disasters I can handle, but General Yang and his entire loyal army, that's a tragedy I couldn't save them from. Lu instantly goes ballistic, bringing up the fact that General Yang was executed completely unjustly, firmly convinced he was framed, because the Yang family's military might was far too formidable to have genuinely lost that crucial battle against the tribes. Suddenly, the official estate steward bursts into the room, totally drenched in sweat. He actually pawned the jade pendant. Li Wu's face instantly twists, half from the agonizing pain of his fresh wound, and half from sheer, unadulterated disbelief. Was my personal jade pendant really that cheap-looking? Exactly how much did you give him for it? The jewelry shop owner, who had clearly already been chewed out over this once, stammered out, T20 taels, standard market price, since he had zero clue whose high-tier heirloom it actually was. When it walked through his doors, he was left completely stuck between laughing his head off and screaming. Turns out that pendant bears a rare family crest. Custom jewelry forged exclusively each year for the elite extended family line. 20 taels is not only a massive insult, but to make matters worse, the idiot went and pawned it at his own family's pawnshop, leaving him with 0 leads to track down the hero who saved his life. Did you seriously not ask his name, or where he lives? The shop owner, still shaking from the intense grilling moments ago, comes up completely blank. He totally forgot to ask. Liao Jichong, stroking his beard, finds the whole situation amusing. There is nothing to be upset about. If anything, this just highlights the guy's solid character. Your family crest is iconic enough that anyone paying attention would instantly know whose massive favor they could cash in. He clearly never planned on using the connection for personal gain. But now I have no way to find him. Li Wu is completely beside himself. If that scholar hadn't tracked him down, he'd be a goner. He spent days waiting around, half expecting someone to show up with that pendant, so he could properly reward his ultimate benefactor. Now realizing the pendant wasn't as valuable to a regular civilian as he originally thought, he figures the guy must genuinely be hurting for cash right now, if he pawned it instead of holding onto it. Before anyone can even process that, the steward comes sprinting back inside, completely breathless, having just escorted the dejected jewelry shop owner out the door moments prior. What is it now? Where's your composure? Liao Jichong snaps. The steward is practically beaming. My lord, word just reached us from the pharmacy. They actually cured the addiction. What? Liao Jichong cuts in before Li Wu can even react. You're telling me the poison's deadly grip is actually beaten? Truly. Absolutely true, my lord. Incredible. Magnificent. Heaven truly blesses our dynasty. Liao Jichong has always trusted Dr. Wu's incredible skill, but he never expected him to crack what completely baffled the imperial court physicians. For half a year straight, blinded by excitement, he grabs the steward's arm way too tight. Get Dr. Wu in here right this second. I want every single detail of this miraculous cure. The steward winces under the crushing grip. My lord, it wasn't actually Dr. Wu who solved it. Dr. Wu comes from a legendary bloodline of elite physicians, his family holding the supreme imperial physician position for 3 consecutive generations. Even without an official court title, there's honestly no better doctor in the entire Northwest. Both men freeze, meanwhile completely oblivious that I just missed out on crossing paths with a heavyweight player in the region I'm strolling back into the village, totally caught up in imagining Suwon's reaction to the silk flowers. I'm back. How are you feeling today? The second I step inside, Xiaoying springs off the bed like she's seen a ghost. In broad daylight, no less. Sister-in-law's here too. I say politely. Thanks again for having my wife's back yesterday. How's your injury? Just genuine, straightforward gratitude right in front of Suwon. Only Xiaoying's breaking out in a massive cold sweat. Actual beads dripping down her forehead. I need to bounce. Got stuff to do at home. She bolts out the door so fast. She's practically gone before I finish my sentence. What was that about? Did someone step on her tail? Suwon covers her mouth, cracking up. Right before I walked in, Xiaoying had been spiraling through wild theories about what's possessing me. A wandering ghost, some feral mountain spirit, even a depressed scholar, who drank himself to death at a brothel, had somehow made the shortlist. Nothing much, Suwon says, grinning. She's probably just terrified of you. Terrified of me? Apparently, inside Xiaoying's head, I'm basically interchangeable with a demonic entity. At this point anyway. How are you feeling today? I've fallen into a routine of checking her pulse. Every single day now, steady, calm, and even, that earlier internal blockage from her injuries is mostly cleared up. Good sign, and she's been genuinely happier lately. I'm good. It doesn't hurt anymore, she says, looking at me, with zero trace of her old fear left in her eyes. Whatever random stranger's soul is, supposedly living in this body, she's completely stopped caring. As far as she's concerned, the man who takes care of her unconditionally, that's her husband, end of story. I even strolled around a bit. Today, you've got 3 cracked ribs. You need actual bed rest. Moving too fast means those bones aren't going to set right. Your body isn't fully recovered yet. So don't push your luck, or what? Seriously, she isn't even scared of me anymore. She's flashing dimples I didn't even know she had. Or maybe these, I tease, dragging it out, as I gesture toward her chest. They might grow crooked. She completely locks up, turning bright red the second it clicks. Technically, she's still untouched. So, dropping a line like that totally short-circuits my wife. It's broad daylight. Yeah, and what of it? I lean right into it, loving her flustered reaction way too much. You're my wife. And nobody else is home. I didn't even say anything wrong. Nothing wrong at all. Now she's blushing all the way up to her hairline, looking at me like I'm about to completely devour her anyway. Look what I brought you. What is it? I pull out 2 gorgeous silk hairpins. Her face lights up instantly. Hairpins? Yep, and I slide the blue one right into her hair myself. Do you like it? I love it. She reaches up to grab the other one for herself, but I gently stop her hand. 1 is absolute perfection. 2 would just be overkill. You're already breathtaking with just this one. For real? She touches her hair, her eyes glistening, radiating that fresh, unguarded sweetness of a girl who's finally starting to blossom. Well, obviously. My wife is hands down the prettiest girl in the village. I keep dropping compliments like they're totally free, which hey they are. Next time you're up and walking around, stand against the wall. I want to measure you. I still don't even know how tall you actually are here. I gesture toward her shoulder, or maybe lower near her neck, grinning like an absolute fool in love. Then I pull out a heavy money pouch and drop it directly into her hands. Look at this. From here on out, you're managing all the household funds. She freezes midair, her arms still raised in shock, though she's certainly not naive about money. She grew up surrounded by it before everything went to hell. Gold and silver were practically toys to her as a kid. But the sheer weight of this pouch tells her right away. This is serious business. She pops it open, revealing 2 solid 10-tael silver ingots resting inside. Just a few days ago we had 3 taels total. Husband, where on earth did all this come from? Honestly, somewhere along the line, whatever lingering thought I had about eventually splitting ways with her quietly vanished. She's soft-spoken, deeply understanding, and sleeps right next to me every single night. I'm only human, and let's be real, she's gorgeous. Drop-dead stunning. I give her the shortened version, mentioning saving some guy at the city gate, and pawning the jade pendant he handed me for 20 taels. A pendant featuring a Chilean design. That is the one detail that actually makes her snap to attention. Yeah, a Chilean. In this world, military officers rock the Chilean emblem, while civil officials use cranes. Except the carving on this wasn't in some fierce, dominant pose, just a low, crouching one. So I honestly didn't think much of it. Why? You know something about it? No, just curious. She shakes her head fast, then asks nervously, Husband, are you seriously putting me in charge of all our money? 20 taels. That's more cash than even the village head's family could pull together. On short notice, and I'm still technically an outsider here. A refugee bride. You're my wife. Of course you manage what I bring in. I'm grinning like an absolute simp, like a guy who's never even been near a woman before. This is just 20 taels. I'm gonna rake in way more. I'll work. You stay home looking drop-dead gorgeous. And count cash until your hands start cramping. Oh, by the way. Do you need to use the restroom? I'm right here right now. I can help. She blinks, completely thrown off by the sudden whiplash of jumping straight from finances to bathroom assistance. Truthfully, she actually does kind of have to go. But the thought of him hearing her, even as a married couple, even as husband and wife, is utterly mortifying. She bites her lip and shakes her head furiously. No, I don't need to. I really don't. I keep pushing her buttons, totally enjoying this way too much. If you gotta go, seriously, don't hold it in. I'll just cover my ears and close my eyes. I swear. She's so totally flustered. She practically wants to melt right into the floorboards, finally lashing out to smack my shoulder in pure embarrassment. Like, Husband, are you okay? All right. I hop off the bed before she can take another swing. Hold on, I'll be right back. While her face is still burning red, she hears loud hammering coming from the yard. And a few minutes later, I'm back, touting a wooden stool with a clean hole cut right in the center. I hold it up proudly like a trophy. Babe, use this whenever you gotta go. Just slide a bucket underneath. She is completely speechless after that one. The county exams are locked in for early April. Time is super tight. So aside from quick daily foraging trips up the mountain, I barely step foot outside. I even handed off the herb selling gig to Urju just to save time, figuring I still had a few days left before my actual appointment with the shopkeeper. But then, on the third afternoon, out of nowhere, the pharmacy's own cart pulls right up to my doorstep. Shopkeeper Joe himself. I'm genuinely stunned seeing him standing at my door, with poor Urju trailing right behind him, looking super awkward, hands shoved deep in his pockets, like he literally has no idea what to do with his life. The shopkeeper takes one sweeping look around, at my half-collapsed dump of a house, at me sitting on a basic stool by the stove, trying to stay warm while studying, and the brutal reality hits him instantly. Damn, this kid is actually dirt poor. Shopkeeper Joe, what brings you all the way out here? I glance around frantically looking for a second chair. Spoiler alert, we don't own one, don't even bother looking. He says, relax, I'm just here on business. Then I'll get going. Is this about the herb delivery? I joke, basically pointing out live and in color just how broke we are. Not even a place to sit down. Maybe we should all go hang out at Urju's place instead. Poor Urju is still in total shock over all of this. Handling those herb deliveries to the big pharmacy for me over the past few days has felt like an absolute fever dream. Guys from his background barely ever get the time of day from city folk. And yet every single time he steps up, they treat him with total respect, even pouring him hot water. Over a decade coming and going from this city, and nobody has ever rolled out the red carpet like this. And now, out of nowhere, the shopkeeper wants to lock down an exclusive supply deal with me for a brand new line of medicine. Urju's biggest brush with fame before today was dodging the annual tax collector, and now I'm apparently making power moves with the biggest pharmacy in town. Watching me talk numbers. Deadass with the store owner. Urju is convinced he's tripping on a fever dream. Urju, have a seat. I tell him, steering everyone back to his humble pad instead, where we actually have hot water and somewhere decent to sit, instead of standing around. Urju drops stiffly onto a wooden stool, keyed up like an expectant dad pacing outside the delivery room. The shopkeeper wastes zero time getting down to brass tacks. The boss is blown away by the detox medicine's insane results, and wants to source it exclusively through you. The million-dollar question, what kind of price tag are you looking at? Damn, that was fast. I knew my formula was solid, but I didn't expect them to greenlight it this fast. What price point are you even imagining? For the final pill? Unj Hall has been reigning over this city for a solid century. Ever since the founding emperor. Our whole mission has always been looking out for the people, he says, taking a slow sip of tea, dropping all pretense. The Northwest has suffered under this poison for years. Now that we finally have a legit cure, it's a massive win for the entire region, not some get-rich scheme. Don't expect to rake in millions off the backs of the sick. The pills themselves don't cost jack to manufacture. The true value is locked away in the formula and ratios, not the raw ingredients. Look, I'm not trying to cash out overnight either. Thin margins are totally fine if the volume is crazy. How about 5 copper coins per pill? 3 pills a day, roughly half a tael a month per patient. Totally pocket change for ordinary folks. Though that doesn't leave a ton of meat on the bone for your cut. These remedies get whipped up in batches. Either single doses or full 30-day supplies. My secret sauce relies heavily on fresh pine needles. And ox tongue weed making up a solid 60% of the mix, with snake tongue grass rounding out roughly another 10%. A full batch runs about 120 coins in raw herbs alone, and yields a solid 10-day supply for each patient, pulling in a retail price of 150 coins. Now that's a modest little profit per head, pocketing an extra 20 coins every single 10 days. 60 a month sounds like pocket change on an individual level, but multiply that across an entire region full of addicts, and the real numbers are absolutely insane. 2 coins per pound. For the pine needles and ox tongue weed up front. With 0 caps on quantity, bring us whatever you can find. Snake tongue grass isn't even in season yet, but I'll drop 4 coins per pound the second it hits. Sign on the dotted line today if you're down. He slaps the contract onto the table and waits. Urju's sitting right next to me barely breathing, totally drowning in the numbers, while realizing pine needles and ox tongue weed are literally weeds growing wild all over the mountain. Completely free for the picking at 2 coins a pound. Unlimited supply and 0 overhead to gather. To him this sounds like absolute effortless free money. I don't even blink. Signing and stamping my thumbprint in a heartbeat. Shopkeeper Joe, when should I bring the first batch over? Now that we know this treatment actually works. I'm not wasting a single second. The contracts are drawn in triplicate. He pockets his copy. Sends one straight to the magistrate to get notarized. And flashes a grin. Production kicked off yesterday on the initial run. And our herb reserves are already running dangerously low. Tomorrow would be legendary if you can pull it off. I've got a ton of other suppliers to hit up. So I gotta bounce. Here's 10 taels as an advance deposit. Keep that safe. Got it? Consider it done. I'll have the delivery ready tomorrow. Long after the shopkeeper clears out. Poor Erju is still rubbing his face in disbelief. Completely shell-shocked. Deep lines practically carved into his weathered skin. Xianing, what in the world did that bigwig just say? Is he actually doing business with you? I can't help cracking up at his totally blank stare. Damn right, business and exclusively with yours truly. Nobody else. And that ox tongue stuff plus whatever else. The snake tongue grass? What even is that? Snake tongue grass? Not long. Bug grass? Ox tongue weeds. The kind that sprouts right under acacia roots. All over the mountain. Both are legit medicinal herbs fetching actual cash. And pine needles too. 2 coins a pound? Seriously? Erju stares at me, totally skeptical. Xianing. Aren't you getting completely scammed by that shopkeeper? In his mind, none of this makes sense. Someone paying hard currency for literal garbage. That grows wild everywhere. Villagers like him use that exact weed as firewood, cursing how much ash it leaves behind. That's exactly what you're missing. I tell him, listen, Erju, think about it. Why does a raw log sell for practically nothing as firewood, yet turn into high-end furniture, worth 10 times the price, once a master carpenter gets his hands on it? Or take soybean flour, 8 coins a pound raw, mix in some veggie scraps and minced meat, steam it into cornbread, and you can flip each piece for a whole coin. A single pound of flour makes at least 20 pieces. Mountain herbs work the exact same way. To you, it's just a weed. In a doctor's hands, it's a life-saving prescription. Erju blinks slowly, finally starting to piece it together. So I get it now. Business. People just always find a sneaky way to squeeze profit out of anything, right? That snake tongue stuff actually cures people, so it holds value. That's the logic. I flash a grin and nod. Spot on. That's the core logic. Sure, the herbs are scattered everywhere up there, But it's still brutal labor for such a tiny payout. 2 coins a pound. Urju remains clearly doubtful. Yet the math checks out. An entire day on the mountain nets you maybe 20 to 30 copper tops. Way better than firewood, sure, but nowhere near as lucrative as processing it yourself. A cool 100+ coins a day versus a measly 60 or 70. Urju isn't dumb. He can easily crunch those numbers. Can't argue with that, I say. Taps the table thoughtfully. But Urju, when did I ever say? I was planning to harvest every single herb myself? Then who? He catches on instantly. Oh right. Get your wife to help, and me too. More hands, more herbs, more cash. I shake my head. Half right. There's an old saying. Enough hands moving together can shift a mountain. I'm not planning to gather this myself. And I'm definitely not asking you to abandon your own grind for me either. His face goes blank. Then how's this even supposed to work? I'm gonna get the entire village out there. Picking herbs for me. I break it down for him properly. The two of us together can manage. Maybe 1 to 200 pounds a day, max. That's half a tael, give or take. But what if the whole village pitched in? Anyone who brings me herbs gets paid cold hard coin. Say 1 coin for every 2 pounds. Even someone barely trying could pull in 20 pounds. 10 people? That's 200 coins. 30 people? 100 people? All I'm paying out is the raw collection cost. Everything beyond that, flipped to the pharmacy, is pure profit. Do the math on what that actually adds up to. Arjun springs straight up, pacing in a circle, rubbing his face in absolute disbelief. Our village sits completely walled by mountains on 3 sides, over 200 households, even if we're not some major clan. Oxtongue weed. Pine needles. That mountain has more loot than anyone could ever clear. And the shopkeeper himself literally said, no quantity limits, unlimited demand. That means an entire mountain's worth of herbs basically belongs to us now. And considering how brutal this famine's been, even a strong laborer hauling sandbags in the city only makes about 20 coins a day. And that's after groveling and bribing the foreman just to land a shift. Which is precisely why this village is crawling with desperate idlers anyway. Xianing, I'm calling it. I'm telling everyone right this second. I'll rally the whole damn village up that mountain for you. Today I'm just smiling. Urju, you're seriously just gonna go tell them like that? You remember my actual reputation in this village, right? What about it, Urju? Turning down free money is just straight up stupid. Trust me, this village has plenty of people with nothing better to do. I'll have everyone up that mountain by this afternoon, and take your cart down to the city myself. Tomorrow morning. And what if nobody shows up? Nobody shows up? That possibility genuinely hasn't crossed his mind. People are complicated, though, and I know exactly what the original me's reputation is worth around here. I'm not just banking on Urju's raw enthusiasm to convince a whole village. Urju, let's make a bet. I point at the rooster strutting around the yard. That one. If the village actually shows up to gather herbs by this afternoon, I'll pay you for a whole chicken. If they don't, I'm cooking that guy for dinner tonight. Deal. He marches out the door, fully confident. I linger in his yard for a second, and spot 2 little heads peeking over the wall. I sneak up behind them. Turns out it's Dolly's son, Zhuang, and Urju's kid. Sure enough, sitting side by side, the 2 of them are literally drooling over the neighbor's white goose, which is mid-laying an egg, frozen halfway out. Classic kid behavior. I remember watching geese lay eggs when I was a kid, too. Spook a laying goose and it can actually choke itself, trying to hold the egg back in. I watch patiently for a second, notice the poor goose is really struggling, and finally speak up. What are you 2 plotting?
Ah, unklening.
The startled goose bolts right away. Egg lost, damn it. His face falls hard. He's still holding a grudge. From that time I stole his roasted sparrow. He's glaring at me, but way too terrified to actually say anything. The village walls are just packed dirt and straw, so I don't mind leaning right against it, grinning as I mess with the kids. You 2 want goose eggs, Zhuang? Zhuang swallows hard, totally busted. Sure that I'm about to scheme again. He stays dead silent, just sniffling like a nervous wreck. That goose belongs to Grandpa Go next door, and so do those eggs. You want to get caught and thrashed for stealing? Zhuang knows thievery means a beating, but he's starving for a taste of that meat anyway. Out of all the village kids, he actually has it the best. His grandpa is the village head, And his dad's a bricklayer with steady work, so they've never starved. But not starving and eating meat regularly? Totally different ballgames. He got smacked with a broom by his own mother, just this morning for whining about wanting meat. He digs deep into his pocket and flashes a few coins, the exact same ones I handed him earlier as payback. Uncle Ning, these goose eggs taste incredible. I'll pay Grandpa Go for it, honest. I'm not stealing. Just don't rat me out to Mom, deal? My lips are sealed. I lift Zhuang down off the well, his little frame light and warm in my arms. And for a split second I find myself wondering if any future kids with Sue would feel just like this. I'm all in on her at this point, even if we haven't officially crossed that line yet. If we ever do, who even knows? She might pop out half a dozen kids for me down the road. Ideally, a whole crew of older brothers, with one sweet little sister at the end. Hey, Uncle Ning's got a serious question for ya. You guys want to eat some meat? Let's be real. Nobody in this village, kid or adult, is ever turning that down. Zhuang eyes me suspiciously. Uncle Ning, I want meat. But you better not kick me again. Last time I got booted, he ran straight to his dad, only for Urju to side with me instead, lighting into the kid with 2 kicks of his own, claiming the old me was practically family anyway, and a stolen sparrow or 2 was no big deal, considering how dirt poor and starved I was, even though his mom cooked an entire pot of meat that very night, all thanks to the pork I'd hooked them up with. The kid's still side-eyeing me, holding onto a grudge. Relax, I won't kick you. Cross my heart. Laughing so hard my shoulders are shaking. I give his head a playful ruffle. Uncle Ning needs your help with something big. Play your cards right and there's meat in it for you. Not just meat, actual coins to spend too. Living out here in a brutal place like this, having a massive family is literally survival. Raising 5 or 6 sons means a powerhouse workforce. Within a decade, plus whatever. Uncles and cousins pitch in. Sons even score land shares in some of the big family clans. While daughters marrying out don't cost the family a single cent. Which totally explains why sons are treated like absolute gold here. Our whole village runs on that exact same hustle. Every married couple is clearly putting in some serious overtime at night because having 4 or 5 kids per household is totally normal here. I send the 2 boys to round up every kid in the village over by the massive willow tree, where they usually hang out roasting sparrows, handing out a few coins before heading home to chop up the pork. I start with 5 pounds, then rethink it, and just dump the rest of the 10+ pounds into the pot. By the time I haul the heavy iron pot down the path, the kids are already gathered and going at it in a full-blown argument. I caught this sparrow over by my uncle's place, so I eat first. You caught it? Sure, but I built the fire, so I'm getting the biggest piece. You get the tiny scrap. Why should I even listen to you? At least my mom isn't a widow. Well, my mom says I'm not even allowed to play with you. Say that about my mom again and I swear I'll take you down. Bring it on. Who's even scared? Loser doesn't get a single bite. Sparrow widow's son, Zhang Jinbao, and another local kid, Xia Xiaoshu, both around 11 or 12 years old, and evenly matched, are already violently wrestling in the dirt, while the rest of the crew cheers them on, loud enough to echo across the entire village. Then the scent finally hits them. What is that? Pure avin. They always say growing boys eat their fathers out of house and home, and that's under normal circumstances. But these kids barely scrape by with enough food most days, let alone actual meat outside of rare holidays. Sneaking around stealing sparrow eggs from rooflines is basically their only reliable source of protein, and even that usually gets them chased off with pitchforks. The fighting stops instantly. Every kid's nose shoots up like a rat's, catching the scent of stolen oil. Jean Debuta and Xia Shashu instantly drop their brawl, mid-swing totally drooling, the aroma hitting harder than the village head's own father's funeral feast. Supposedly the best grub anyone's seen around here in years. Where's that coming from? Debeo screams out, pointing as a dozen kids take off, sprinting full speed toward the willow tree, kicking up clouds of dust. Terrified the meat will vanish before they even arrive. By the time they crash in, their eyes are bulging, throats working overtime like drums. Smells unreal, heaven help them all. Just one bowl of this rich broth, and they'd sleep like babies for a week. I'm stirring 10 solid pounds of pork in the pot. No rock sugar for color, but loaded with oil and heavy soy sauce. Frying everything down until it hits that deep, Savory stank that carries for miles on the wind. Outdoor cooking's got no shortage of firewood anyway. I've got a massive stack of dead branches, keeping this broth at a rolling boil. Zhuang, still clutching my coins, stands by the pot swallowing hard. Uncle Ning, I rounded up all the boys. Just like you wanted, you promised me meat and, oh shit. His voice drops low. Way less bossy than the village head's grandson usually is. But hey, he's been faithfully tending the fire the entire time, so naturally. Both of you get a bowl, I say, spotting the rest of the pack, circling like starving wolves, and raising my voice, Zhuang. What did Uncle tell you earlier today? What's the deal if you want some meat? Zhuang squares his shoulders, proudly announcing to the whole crew. Help Uncle Ning with chores. Go up the mountain and harvest weeds, and he'll hook you up with meat and spending cash. I ladle the biggest chunk right into his bowl. Good job, Zhuang. Then pointing to Shirtu. And you help Uncle forage for herbs. And you get meat and coins too, alright? Damn, his eyes are practically falling into the pot. At this point, the kid would agree to sell his soul. Yes. I'm gonna help you forage for herbs, whatever you need, from here on out. That's what I like to hear. Count me in. Here's your bowl too. Most of the younger kids don't even have a clue what herb gathering is all about. But Sia, Xiaoshu, and Jiang Debuta catch on crazy fast. Help out with whatever this is. Get paid in actual meat and cold hard cash. The boy, 12 and bold enough to finally step up, decides it's totally worth the risk. Even if it's a total scam, worst case scenario, he just keeps taking dumps in front of my door out of pure spite.
Umklening.
I keep stirring, playing it cool and purposely making him wait. He almost chickens out from the heavy silence, until he catches Xiaoshu giving him the go-ahead nod. Uncle Ning, is this for real? Help you score some meat? Obviously it's real. Adults don't lie to kids. Adults who lie to kids totally deserve to step in their own piss. Zhuang, break it down for them. Tell everyone what kind of weeds Uncle is looking for. Zhuang, taking his new job super seriously, pulls out 2 fistfuls of the plants I handed him earlier as samples. This one's oxtongue weed, this one's pine needle tips, and this one's snake-tongue grass. I correct him smoothly, snake-tongue grass, right? Right, snake-tongue grass. Uncle Ning says these grow literally everywhere, and if you bring them back to him, he gives you. He blanks out for a second, totally forgetting, before jumping back in. Money! 2 pounds of oxtongue or pine needles gets you 1 copper coin. Snake tongue is worth way more. 2 coins for 2 pounds. Seriously. Xiaoshu is still totally skeptical, terrified. This is some elaborate trap, even though the aroma of the meat cooking right in front of him is 100% undeniable. Of course it's real. Look, Zhuang flashes his open palm, showing off a stash of 10 coins. See, Uncle Ning hooked me up. He's literally the best. He even paid back the money he borrowed from me with interest. Such a generous nephew. Bro really had to slide that last part in there. I didn't even prompt him. Zhuang holds up the sample herbs again, which most of the kids already recognize, except for those pine needle tips, which completely throw everyone off. The boy asks, Uncle, what's the deal with these pine needles? Just the youngest. Most tender tips on the branches snap 'em right off. Get enough to make weight. Bring 'em here, and I'll pay you cold hard cash on the spot.
No tricks, no excuses.
I scoop a massive mountain of meat, and shove it straight into Debeo's hands. The bowl is blazing hot against his palms, but he doesn't even care. He wouldn't dare think about letting go. This is enough meat to season his mom's cabbage stew for an entire year. Uncle, is this seriously for me? He can barely process it. Yeah, it's all yours. I ladle out another bowl for Xiaoshu, then stand tall and address the entire drooling mob. Anyone who agreed to forage for me today, every single one of you gets meat. But supplies are limited, folks. First come, first served. Miss out and you get zilch. The kids stuff their faces until they're ready to burst, their round little mouths dripping with grease. There's an old saying around these parts that only rich families ever get oil stains on their sleeves. Even struggling households fake it during the holidays, rubbing pig skin all over their cuffs, just to pretend they're living large. Xiaoshu goes to wipe his greasy mouth right on his sleeve, but Debeo snatches his arm. Don't you dare. Why not? Xiaoshu snaps, still salty about their unfinished scuffle earlier. You absolute moron. Yeah, we got fed, but whose food was this? Xianning's. If your parents find out you took handouts from the village outcast, they'll literally skin you alive. That sobering reality hits Xiaoshu like a truck. He quickly warns the rest of the kids. So, are we still doing what we promised him? He said he'd actually hand over real coins. These kids barely get to keep any New Year's money before their parents snatch it right back. And now an adult is offering instant cash same day. Just for picking weeds? Obviously, we're doing it. DeBeo's mind drifts back to his own mother, stressed out of her mind over buying seeds for the spring harvest. The same mother who's been forced to beg. That local loan shark, G the lame, begging for help over and over, only to limp home with fresh bruises. Little does he know, half those beatings came from G's own wife, and the rest from G himself. Though his mother never utters a single word out loud, just weeping silently in the dark, her fists clenched and eyes burning with rage. We're gathering everything he asked for. He promised to pay us back, but what if he bails? One of the younger kids pipes up nervously. DeBeau's voice is absolute steel. Then we all march over and drop a steaming pile right on his doorstep, every last one of us, to teach him a lesson about scamming kids. Meanwhile, I'm heading home carrying the cooking pot, Zhuang riding high on my shoulders, his little hand gripped in mine while poor Urju just got a whole bucket of filthy water, sloshed straight over his head. Somewhere along the way. Who do you people think you're talking to? You think the Shi family doesn't have any real men left to speak for them? Shi Baoqing's wife bursts out of her doorway, dirty diaper rag in hand, fists on her hips, screeching at the top of her lungs. We're all registered in the exact same family book, and you show up trying to hustle your own flesh and blood. Just because that deadbeat lucky duck bagged a single deer, he thinks he can play big city merchant now? Medicinal herbs for sale. Give me an absolute break. What a joke. And you, Lu Urju, letting that moron talk you into running his errands. Showing up at my front door peddling this nonsense. Urju, completely soaked in dishwater, is ready to roll up his sleeves and throw hands right back, until she dolly steps in to stop him. Turns out, Urju's very first stop for recruiting villagers was actually the village head's own doorstep. The village head himself, Shi Baofu, had just calmly tapped out his pipe and stayed silent, leaving the final call entirely up to Dolly. Ever since that massive deer sale, Dolly has realized I've genuinely changed, no longer broken and bottling it up, but steady, completely grounded, sharp-minded, and refusing to get played for a fool. Figuring that my solo reputation might need the backing of actual family ties, he decided to personally go door-to-door with Urju, prioritizing the Shi clan members first, because blood runs thickest around here. That second house they hit? Total vibe killer for the whole plan. Literally. Auntie, that's a bit much, Dolly cuts in. We're family. You don't gotta help if you aren't feeling it, but there's no reason to talk to us like trash. Trash? You think this is trash? She keeps whipping her cleaning rag through the air, showing Dolly zero respect. Dolly, don't think I won't say it straight to your face either. You're a skilled, respected bricklayer. Why are you wasting your time running errands? For a total degenerate? Aren't you stressed his toxic rep is gonna stain you too? Alright, enough jawing, both of you. My grandson just pissed himself, and he's about to scream his head off for milk. She slams the door shut, hurling one final threat over her shoulder. If I actually do somehow strike it rich, they better not even think about crawling back to her doorstep. By the time I lay eyes on Urju again, his face is pulling a solid mile long. I'm squatting down in the kitchen, sketching out blueprints on the dirt floor, with a stick for the two boys, when I look up and see Urju standing dead in the doorway, looking like an absolute final boss guardian, soaked head to toe with his hair plastered to his skull. I scrunch up my nose. Urju, what is that rank smell? And Dolly, you're here too. Dolly, who had been steaming mad the entire walk over, can't help but crack up watching Urju drown in his own misery. Oh, don't ask me. Ask your boy over here. Urju, what happened to you? He looks exactly like a guy who got caught creeping with the wrong married woman and paid the ultimate price. Don't even get me started. Urju's face is pitch black and radiating pure fury. Are these villagers actually brain dead? Turning down literal free cash like this? I already knew how completely cooked the old me's reputation was in this broken down village. Paying off debts once doesn't magically erase years of damage. Got shut down hard, huh? I give Wan a light tap on the backside, sending him and Sure-Do scurrying off to play. Man, you have no idea. Urju is practically vibrating with rage. Back when that snake venom nearly killed Urzu years ago, it was your old man who hauled him down the mountain, sucking the poison out with his own mouth, and out of everyone in this damn village. Looking down on you, his own flesh and blood is the absolute worst. And don't think I didn't notice. While his screeching wife was out there hurling insults, right at my doorstep, Urzu himself was kicking back inside, drinking, not even having the spine to show his face. Like the rest of us are completely blind to his cowardice. Even Duo Li looks genuinely sick to his stomach hearing all this. Family ties are supposed to mean something, especially considering my actual father literally saved that man's life. Swallowing his fury, Duo Li snaps back. Xianning, don't let it get to you. I'll deal with my second uncle's trashy family later. If this herb business is actually legit, I'll make sure nobody in this village ever dares step out of line again. No need to drag the village head into this just yet, I tell him. My own garbage reputation earned this distrust fair and square. It makes total sense why they don't believe a word. So what do we do then? The shopkeeper expects delivery tomorrow, and we don't have a single leaf in stock. Urzu is visibly spiraling into a panic now, grabbing Duo Li's arm and trying to haul him outside. Let's get up that mountain right this second. While there's still daylight left. We can't just go back on our word. Duo Li, getting dragged along, shoots me a stunned look. He'd been super skeptical earlier, just hearing through the grapevine that I'd landed a deal with the city's premier pharmacy. Now, watching Urzu freak out this intensely over breaking a promise, he realizes it's dead serious.
Tiannin.
Urzu's right. Duo Li urges, let's head up while there's still light. If the three of us aren't enough manpower, I'll drag my old man and your sister-in-law along too. Brother Duo Li. Urzu, hold your horses for a second, I say, grabbing Urzu's arm with a calm grin. Remember our little bet from earlier? Yeah, of course I remember. His eyes suddenly balloon in shock. Wait, Xianning, did you seriously already find people to harvest the herbs? Found them, just give it a minute. I lead them both straight out to the yard, and point right at the rooster, strutting arrogantly along the wall. Dinner's coming up soon anyway, and I totally skipped lunch. Why don't you guys go ahead and settle that bet right now? Those herbs will be rolling up to my door by tomorrow morning. At the latest, I guarantee it. Truth is, I've low-key been eyeing that rooster for a while now. The alpha bird waking the whole village up at dawn. Lord of his own little harem of hens, finally meets his end. I snap his neck, drain the blood into a basin. Scald, pluck, and chop him up. Blanch him real quick. Then sear him off. With ginger and soy sauce before tossing in those frozen mushrooms Urju brought over. Soon the whole yard smells like absolute heaven. Dolly's already heard from Urju that I legit signed a real deal with the biggest pharmacy in the city. He totally thought I got scammed at first. Same as Urju, but the second he found out they dropped 10 taels as a deposit, before even seeing a single leaf of herb, doubt went right out the window. When did I get this cracked? He barely even recognizes me anymore. Seeing his brother figure finally turning his life around. That calls for a major celebration in Dolly's book. So not to be outdone by Urju's legendary rooster sacrifice, he sprints home and grabs 2 solid pounds of cured bacon, telling his totally confused wife flat out, going out to drink with my brother Chunning. I had already mentally braced myself for Urju's wife's notoriously intimidating aura, but seeing her in the flesh still hits completely different. Thick facial hair with a faint, dark shadow right above her lip, that from afar looks like a full-on mustache. Features that aren't necessarily ugly, just remarkably intense, especially the build. By my estimate, my current body's roughly 6 feet tall. Urju's a couple inches taller than that. Dolly's a bit shorter, but this absolute unit matches me eye to eye, and fills up the doorway, completely built like a brick wall. As my sister-in-law, she's holding a finished quilt, and greets me politely. Once she notices me looking completely caught off guard, since the old me used to cower away from her, like a scared mouse spotting a predator. She's definitely picking up on the vibe shift. At least now I'm acting like an actual human being. The quilts are ready, bringing them to your wife. Thank you so much, I reply. acting as respectful as I possibly can around someone built like a tank. My wife has your payment ready inside. I won't intrude, The deal was 15 coins per quilt, which she would have collected even if I hadn't offered. With one foot past the doorway, she whips back around, eyebrows locked in a scowl. Seriously, this guy? Somehow he still has the absolute audacity to take a concubine. Right under this woman's nose. Genuinely legendary courage. Catching the look on her face, I brace for impact. Yes, sister-in-law? She stares me down, her voice ice-cold and final. Next time you and your brother make a stupid bet, leave my livestock completely out of it. That rooster was the absolute best one they owned. Prime sire to a dozen hens. Got it. Got it, won't ever happen again. Stepping inside, Tian immediately shows up. Xiaoying scrambles off the bed to give her room, shaking visibly under a single glare. Sister-in-law is here, Suwin says warmly, handing over the agreed payment, counted out from a small coin pouch. Thank you so much for your skilled hands. Without you, my husband and I would still be freezing under those old rags. How's the injury holding up? My husband's taking great care of me. It barely hurts at all now. Suwin smiles. I just can't do heavy labor yet. Then don't. Let Xiaoying handle it. Tian fires back in a gruff tone. A wife feeds and clothes her man, and a husband steps up when his wife is down. That's just how it works. I told you before to leave him. You didn't listen, but I'm glad it worked out anyway. Glad he finally got his act together. The people close to us have definitely noticed the change. Out of everyone in this whole circle, Tian is honestly the only one who never looked down on Suwin for being a refugee, stepping in to protect her plenty of times. Back when the original me was at his absolute worst. Even offered Su Wan travel money once to help her escape. Su Wan's official status is rock-bottom labor class, technically just one tier above the brothel, yet legally sitting far below ordinary citizens. While the law strictly forbids trading actual free citizens, labor-class folks are treated as legal property bought and sold. Men of this rank can scrape by anywhere, provided they're strong enough to pull their weight. But women, especially someone as fragile as Su Wan, lose every ounce of legal protection. The second marriage stops shielding them. Any thug on the street could snatch her and flip her for cash. That's the brutal reality behind why she endured years of abuse. Instead of running, there simply wasn't anywhere safe to go. Yeah, it finally worked out. Su Wan murmurs softly, her eyes drifting toward the window, where I'm out there splitting firewood. Outside, Xiaoning tracks her every move, even shoulder to shoulder with other grown men doing the exact same grind. My posture stays razor-sharp and straight-backed. The evening golden hour cutting right across my profile. Sweat tracking down my jawline, in a way that somehow looks ridiculously good, instead of gross. No wonder Su Wan's still head over heels smitten, even half believing I might be possessed by a ghost. The room falls silent for a second before Xiaoning asks, with genuine, wide-eyed concern, Su Wan, has he been draining your life force lately or what? Out in the yard, 2 heavy wooden tables are set up. Men at one, women at the other, alongside the centerpiece chicken stew. I've whipped up stir-fried cabbage with smoky bacon, a fiery plate of shredded spicy potatoes, and capped it off with a rich egg and chive soup, crafted from the rooster's unhatched eggs. Suzy and Zhuang, already stuffed silly from lunch, barely poke at their food before I boot them off to practice. They're writing by the firelight. Zhuang tackling basic numbers. Suzy starting fresh with his own surname. That right there is the edge a scholar gives you, compared to us dirt-poor farmers. Dolly grunts, taking a slow sip of sweet potato liquor, as he watches his kid count frantically on his fingers. Once you actually commit to learning your letters, you end up cashing in way faster than the rest of us combined. No kidding, Urju's already looking tomato red after just 2 cups. I used to think Xiaoning only wanted to study, just to dodge manual labor. Turns out, bro actually absorbed something from those dusty tomes. The man is literally practicing medicine now. That's straight-up doctor-level skill. He's an actual physician. How many licensed doctors does a cluster of rundown villages like this even have? Even a half-baked barefoot quack gets treated like royalty out here, respected purely for having one genuinely useful skill. You'll never run out of food, Xiaoning. I heard straight from the pharmacy folks. Your medical chops put their senior doctors to shame. Urju asks, genuinely curious. Now where on earth did you learn all this? Teach my nephew sometime. He's stuck apprenticing at a brutal tofu shop in the city, working like a pack mule and getting skinnier every single time I see him. He's only 12, and it utterly breaks my heart watching him grind like that. One lie always demands 100 more just to keep it upright. I've officially backed myself into a corner. I'm scrambling like mad to dodge the question entirely, when a whole swarm of little bodies suddenly materializes at the edge of the yard.
Unklening.
Are you home? Urju is first to the door, looking suspicious as he yanks it open. Both he and Dahue instantly freeze. Crammed outside is a whole pack of village kids, about 10 of them, filthy from head to toe, with random twigs still stuck in their hair, straight from foraging in the mountains. Uncle Ning, we brought the exact herbs you wanted. Pay up. Don't even think about going back on your word. Adults who lie to kids deserve to step in their own. Wait, what? Dahue adds, looking genuinely tense behind all that bravado, terrified of getting scammed out of his payment, but desperate for the coins. If you don't pay us, we're all taking turns dropping a deuce right in front of your door. Starting tomorrow. So that's who's actually been doing that. On my front step, and not Urju's son after all. You guys must be freezing out there. I immediately wave them all into the kitchen to warm up by the fire. Even with spring technically right around the corner, the mountains are still buried in snow, and most of these kids are wearing clothes. A full size too small with practically zero insulation. Spending hours wandering the freezing mountain in this weather is no joke for malnourished kids. I motion for Urju to pour hot water for everyone. Sharing bowls if needed with medicine this scarce. A chronic chill could spiral into something serious fast. Need to brew some Isidus root for them tomorrow. At least I think so. Dabio drops his sack with a heavy thud and wipes his mouth. Josh chimes in defiantly. Uncle, I spent the entire afternoon grinding on the mountain. Is this the stuff you wanted? He rips the sack open, and Urjo and Dolly both freeze instantly. Stacked together, with bits of snow still clinging to it, is a massive haul, fresh pine needle tips, oxtongue weed, and a solid amount of snake-tongue grass. Right on the money, exactly what I asked for. Dolly stares at the filthy crowd of kids, completely stunned. Xianing, are these your hired hands? Told her not to sweat it, I say, flashing a grin at him, while he's still visibly paralyzed by sheer disbelief. Watch, I'm not eating that rooster for nothing. I crouch down and sort straight through the herbs. Sure, there's a bit of snow and stray grass mixed in, but it's the exact 3 power plants we need. I clean and separate everything into neat, proper piles, then pop open the coin pouch and slam it on the stove counter. The metallic clink rings out loud. Sounds like easily over 100 coins. Suddenly, the kids go dead silent. Breath held, eyes locked onto the pouch, looking like they're terrified. The village's biggest degenerate is somehow gonna snake them at the last second. Urju, you got a scale at home. His wife sells eggs and sews for the village on the regular, so they always keep one handy. Yeah, hold on. He sprints off and is back almost as fast as he left. Tian rolls up too, takes one look at the crowd of kids, and shoots me a look. Weigh it fair, don't shortchange him. The children wouldn't dream of it. Sister-in-law, I have Urju hold the scale steady, since I don't fully trust my own eyes to read it, and I crunched the numbers myself. Ox tongue, 12 pounds and 7 tails. Pine needles, 4.5 pounds. Snake tongue, 2 pounds. Urju calls it out, and I round up generously in my head. 12 and 7 becomes a clean 13 pounds, and 4.5 rounds straight up to 5, and quickly count up the coins. I give the kid a solid clap on the shoulder. Not bad at all, little Dabium. He's barely breathing, eyes bloodshot. Voice cracking, asking, how much, uncle? 13 coins. I pry open his white-knuckled fist, and press the coins directly into his palm. Keep that safe, lose it, and that's on you, not me. He's never held this much money in his entire life. The actual physical weight of real coins in his hand is what finally convinces him this is real. He keeps rubbing the coins together in his grip, like they might magically evaporate. Uncle.
Unklening.
Yeah. I'm already moving to the next kid. Xiaoshu is watching Dabium with absolute competitive intensity. He's a year older and the two of them have been rivals for as long as I can remember, from this body's memories. Dabium just walked away with 13 coins, when his own older brother only makes a tael or so a month. dumping slop buckets for some wealthy household. Comes home so rarely. His mother gives up the warm spot on the bed for him. Every single time even took in his baby to raise, so it wouldn't slow down his grueling work. If Xiaoshu earns more than Debium today, maybe he can finally beat his own brother at something. Uncle, this is the most money Debium's ever held. Earned completely clean without bowing to anyone. Without being forced to call some drunk lowlife dad. Money that's actually his, Uncle Ning. I'm never crapping in front of your house again. Or peeing either. I'll bring even more herbs tomorrow. He bolts off before even finishing the sentence. And right as he spins around, I catch a single tear flying off his face midair, landing somewhere in the dirt. Uncle.
Unklening.
How much is mine? Xiaoshu asks desperate. Is it more than Debium? Ox tongue, 14 pounds. Even pine needles, 6 pounds. Snake tongue, just a few stalks. I tell him, hang on to those few stalks. Bring them back once you've got some real weight. So how much, uncle? 10 coins. The moment the coins hit his palm, he leaps a full foot straight up in the air, screaming with pure joy. I've got money. I made less than Debio. But that's 10 whole coins. Tomorrow, I'm hitting the market for meat buns. 5 of them, 1 each for mom, dad, my brother, and even my little nephew. Uncle, you're the absolute best. Can I bring even more herbs tomorrow too? Of course you can, I tell him, ruffling his hair before turning to the rest of the hyped-up crowd. Debio left in a rush, so tell him for tomorrow. Sort the herbs properly, exactly like this. I hold up the cleanly separated piles for them to see. Keep each type separate. No mixed weeds. No yank. Got it. Got it, Uncle Ning. My turn. My turn. I was here first. Weigh mine first. I've got way more than you. Get in line. The kids instantly erupt into absolute chaos. Loud enough to rattle the roof timbers. I line them up properly. Urju handles the scale. I crunch the numbers and hand out the cash. And Dolly sorts and stores the incoming herbs. By the time every last kid has bounced for home, it's pitch black. Dolly helps urge away the massive, fully sorted haul one final time. And the final tally comes in way higher than expected. Nearly 50 pounds of ox tongue, 35 pounds of pine needles, and just under 8 pounds of snake tongue. Easily the rarest find of the bunch. Quick mental math. Ox tongue and pine needles both go for 2 coins per pound at the pharmacy, and snake tongue commands 4. Gross total comes out to a staggering 148 coins. Minus the 36 I just paid out to the hyped-up kids, leaving a jaw-dropping 112 coins in clean profit. Ah, finally, some sweet peace and quiet. I'll tell you what, these kids really came through, Urju says, genuinely impressed. I'll haul it into the city for you first thing tomorrow. Dolly immediately steps up. You've got heavy firewood to cut tomorrow anyway. I'll make the trip instead. Save you from losing out on your daily wages. Wages? Man, who even cares about wages? Urju laughs, settling back down at the table for another celebratory shot of sweet potato liquor. My brother's finally got his life totally figured out. That's way more valuable than any coin. Besides, I gotta hit up the West Market tomorrow anyway, for seed grain. If Raju hadn't brought up seed grain, I would have completely forgotten. I even owned 3 acres of farmland. My past self, apparently, constantly went to war with his own dad, overselling that land to fund his studies. The reason it never happened? Those 3 acres were the only decent farmland left. From a bitter family split over a decade ago. And digging deeper into these memories, turns out, the old man's grandparents are technically still kicking. His dad's younger brother, needless to say, convinced the grandparents to hand Dad just 3 lousy acres of good soil plus 2 acres of rocky, useless dirt right by a drainage ditch, and this falling apart shack, under the pathetic excuse of supporting his aging parents all by himself. Grandparents still alive, and not a single one of them showed up. When both parents died back to back. In the exact same village, too. Nobody offered a single copper coin. On his knees. My past self literally had to beg the local blacksmith for funeral money. Thinking back to running in to see a Yaozu at the bookshop, and that smug, condescending grin on his face. It turns out my old obsession with studying hard probably sparked out of sheer spite, from watching his parents get constantly bullied by the grandparents, while Yaozu's branch of the family was thriving. and sitting pretty as elite student scholars. My past self's instincts weren't wrong, just completely doomed. You can't outgrind a rigged system where the family decided you're the untouchable outcast. Getting beaten down enough times will eventually break anybody, especially someone who wasn't all that sharp to begin with. As for the grandparents themselves, I almost laugh thinking about it now. If your own flesh and blood can stand right there and watch their families starve and suffer, without lifting a finger, that tells you everything about where their rotten loyalties actually lie. As far as I'm concerned, that deadbeat branch of the family is completely dead to us, unless they actually have the nerve to roll up and start something. And if they do, well, handling them is their own funeral. As for what we're actually going to do with those 3 acres, though, I haven't quite figured that out yet. Urge you, whenever you've got some free time, drive me out so I can check out that land properly. That plot's got some killer soil. He swears to me that even during the worst drought, it still pulled in 70 pounds an acre. That is literally why the local blacksmith was practically salivating to snatch it from you. We'll see about that, I tell him. I was up grinding at the crack of dawn again today, cramming exam papers by the stove for hours. This particular stack was drafted by a genius named Wu Junyuan, who literally swept both his county and provincial exams a couple of years back. The cover even features his whole backstory. Talk about a massive flex. There's no ghostwriting industry set up around here yet, especially not for high-stakes exam essays, since those actually test pure, unadulterated skill. And this guy is so wildly confident in his own chops that he's already selling heavy-duty study guides before even passing the final imperial exam himself. The cart rattles down the road. I couldn't care less about the freezing cold, just sitting in the back murmuring passages from the Book of Rites, under my breath, straight off the highlighted notes in the actual exam papers. Urju listens to the creaking wooden wheels, harmonize with my steady recitation, and honestly, the guy is genuinely stoked about it, already mapping out how he's gonna work twice as hard, so he can eventually send his own kid, Shirdo, off to school too. Today just so happens to be the day. The southern counties surrounding the city hold their massive official seed grain sale, so the city gates are completely choked with carts and desperate buyers. We crawl through the miserable line before finally slipping past Seening. Wait up for me, let's grab our seeds together, and you should totally go scope out the tax collectors while we're at it. Sure thing. Let's just ditch the cart at the pharmacy's backlot first, to dodge this insane crowd by the storefront. I hop down from the bed and yell out to the young apprentice, sweeping nearby, "Hey Erling, give my brother a hand hauling that cart around back." The pharmacy's jammed tighter than a shrine on a holy day. Word has seriously blown up across the city about this prodigy young doctor, who didn't just pull dying addicts back from the brink, but actually engineered a working detox formula from scratch. Most of today's morning crowd rolled in, chasing that exact hype. It's legitimately working, a woman in line insists, craning her neck toward the entrance. My neighbor Annie Zhang was hooked on that stuff for years, grinding away at embroidery in secret, hiding her horrific sores from her own son. Last time I saw her, blood was literally dripping down her arm. You know what I saw yesterday? Because juicy gossip always draws a crowd, especially in a place where everyone's suffering from that exact same deadly poison. The lump's gone. The woman gestures wildly at her own arm and neck. It used to be the size of a quail egg. Now it's practically vanished. Even the tiny rice grain-sized bumps around it are completely gone. What about her arm? Asks a guy who looks completely wasted away, swaying on his feet, desperately hunting for any shred of proof that this actually works. She wouldn't roll up her sleeve for me directly, but the gossiping woman, petrified of losing her street cred, instantly doubles down to back herself up. I heard the young doctor personally drained, a worst-case patient who was basically on death's door, right in front of a whole crowd of witnesses. Even high-rolling elite families in the city are reportedly lining up for treatment now. Wait, isn't that him? The guy who pulled off that insane draining stunt the other day. Someone yells out. Dozens of heads snap in my direction all at once. I'm mid-transaction with the shopkeeper, barely taking a step toward the patient ward, when the roar hits like a tidal wave. Miracle doctor, are you the one who actually purges the poison? Please treat me. I've been grinding it out, waiting 3 days straight. Just to catch you here, please check my sores. Me too, me too. Ever since word dropped about that dying patient you saved, I used to think you could fix anything. Out of nowhere, nearly 20 people swarm me, their faces burning with desperate hope. Like I'm some legendary reincarnated healer. If Arjun weren't still in the back lot, sipping hot water, he'd totally lose his mind. Seeing this, I finally get what it feels like for celebs. Getting mobbed at the airport. Except instead of obsessive fans screaming about wanting my babies, it's a crowd of genuinely sick, desperate people crying, "Miracle doctor, please look at us, I've used this drug for 3 years. Now my own mother is sick too. My wife and kids won't even look at me because of these nasty sores." She dragged the kids back to her parents' place, even though she's the exact one who got me hooked on it in the first place. I only took it to grind harder and support my family. How was I supposed to know it'd rot me out? Me too. Another man shoves his way forward, dropping straight to his knees, begging, "Merciful miracle doctor, please save us. None of us touched this poison out of greed. We just wanted to earn more for our loved ones, and trusted the wrong crowd. Please save us, sir. Please get up." I rush to haul him back to his feet, then look helplessly at the shopkeeper who just smirks, clearly loving this "told you so." Turning down the staff gig wouldn't save you. From this exact circus, scanning the crowd, maybe 20 heads total, I can instantly spot 3 or 4 critical cases, just from how completely hollowed out they look. Man, I've still got studying to crush. The kids are probably already camping at my door. With today's herb haul, I pivot to the shopkeeper. "Where's Dr. Wu?" "Treating patients in the ward right now." He flashes a knowing grin at me. "So, changed your mind about joining the staff yet? Either way, I'm still buying all 3 herbs from you. No strings attached, stop playing with me." "Shopkeeper Joe," I drop the attitude and turn to address the whole crowd. "I know everyone here is desperate for a cure, praying they don't miss this shot. But hear me out first." The patients lean in, hanging on every word, a few of them actually tearing up for the first time in years. Real hope that this nightmare disease can finally be beaten. "Miracle doctor, we swear we won't cause any trouble. Yes, just tell us what to do. If you can cure us, our very lives are yours." I scan the desperate faces in front of me. Friends, uncles, aunts. I know you all want treatment right this second, but sickness builds up slowly over time, and it doesn't vanish overnight either. This poison works the exact same way. You're all here today because word got out about a legitimate cure for the sores. There are 2 treatment paths: surgical removal of the clots or the oral medication. Surgery is strictly for severe cases, not something to take lightly. So anyone using this drug for 3 years or more, line up right here. Sores under 10 total, none larger than a red bean. Line up here, everyone else over there. Within seconds, I've sorted the entire chaotic crowd by severity. I turn to the shopkeeper. "Have you started registering patients for the surgical track yet?" Watching me calm an anxious mob and triage them this fast and clean, the shopkeeper genuinely can't tell if he's watching some young green scholar or a seasoned master physician running the show. "Registration's already started," he confirms, dispatching the apprentice to fetch the logbook. Ung Hall has never discriminated by status or wealth. Anyone who can pay gets treated. Simple as that. "Good. Then everyone line up here to register." The man at the front of the surgical line literally breaks down in tears, thanking me like I'm an actual deity. "Miracle doctor, Bodhisattva of absolute mercy. If you cure me, I swear I'll buy prime land and build you a massive shrine, so my descendants never forget who saved their ancestor." Damn. Even back in my old life, curing patients left and right, nobody ever offered to build me a temple. I just laugh it off. "Wait your turn in line, sir. I'm just delivering supplies here." When it comes to actual surgeries, Dr. Wu is the real master. He's the seasoned vet here. If you're gonna build a shrine, build it for him. Look, I'm not the hardcore atheist I used to be, especially after everything I've been through. Still, I'm not about to get spooked by talk of divine intervention or blind fate. Whatever dropped me in this place, I figure heaven's got its own grand design. That's way above my pay grade. Besides, if history has taught us anything, people who get worshipped as living gods while they're still breathing rarely get a Hollywood happy ending. Just look at every corrupt eunuch in the history books who got a little too comfortable. riding that kind of hype. Alright, surgical patients register over here. I pivot to address the other two groups. For everyone with milder cases, taking this oral medicine on its own will completely neutralize and flush out the poison, provided it hasn't advanced to surgical territory yet. As for those detox pills everyone's buzzing about, someone right in the front shouts out the million-dollar question. Are they ridiculously expensive? Do they actually work? What if this is like last time, blowing a fortune on snake oil that just makes things worse? Completely fair point, especially since they're putting something into their bodies purely on blind faith. I tackle their hesitation head-on. Look, every single medicine carries some risk. None of you knew what that original drug would do to you when you first started popping it either. I'm no immortal miracle worker like Dr. Wu, and I can't conjure up legendary cures out of thin air. But I can promise you this much. This detox formula genuinely halts and suppresses the poison. You have my absolute guarantee on that. So what's the damage? How long until we see results? If it costs a fortune, forget it. I'd rather save every copper for my kids than waste it on myself. It's not expensive at all. I fire back firmly. Let me ask you, how much were you burning on your old fix? Hell, a tiny dose ran you a whole silver coin. An old-timer pipes up with a wistful grin, clearly getting nostalgic for the high. Honestly, if it wasn't slowly killing me, I never would have quit. That rush felt better than my own wedding night. As soon as he says that, the entire crowd erupts into laughter. I flash a grin given your age. You're way past your prime wedding night days anyway. More chuckles ripple through, growing lighter now as real hope washes over the crowd. Miracle Doctor just hit us with the price already. Ignore this old-timer, it's dirt cheap. Less than a 20th of what you used to bleed out. 5 coins, just 5 coins a pill. Seriously, that cheap? Yeah, 5 coins flat. I confirm, but for it to actually work its magic, you need 3 doses every single day. 15 coins total a day. Stick with it for at least a week straight, and those open sores will instantly start scabbing over, with the itching and pain dropping off sharply. Mild cases clear up about 70 to 80% within 3 months max, and you'll be fully back to tearing up the fields, or pulling heavy labor the entire time. 15 coins a day for all this? Less than half a tael a month to actually save my life? Miracle Doctor, hook me up with a full month's supply right now. Spring planting is right around the corner. I desperately need to work my land. Me too. Count me in too. This is insanely cheap for something this life-changing. You're an absolute living saint. I'm building a shrine for you too. Praying you live a long life totally safe from bad luck. Appreciate the love, but honestly, give your thanks to Shopkeeper Joe and Dr. Wu first. Without them, this medicine could never be sold at this price. I checked the time quickly, mentally itching to bail before this absolute circus spirals harder, and shoved the shopkeeper straight into the spotlight. Listen up, everyone, whether you're grabbing meds or just want to shout out your thanks, go through Shopkeeper Joe. From here on out, I'm ghosting this scene now. I shove the shopkeeper right into the mob and sprint. Behind me, the poor shopkeeper is getting swarmed, yelling out in utter helplessness at my dust. Hey, Xianing, don't you dare ditch me. Get your butt back here. Dr. Wu is dying to see you too. Right as those words drop, the fancy-dressed guy, who offered to build me a shrine a second ago, grabs his arm and refuses to let go. Shopkeeper, what did you just call him? Drop the miracle doctor's name right now. Was it Xianing? Which exact characters? How do you spell it? Hurry up and pack my meds. I am rolling up on a feng shui master this instant, to scout out a prime grave site for this clown.